pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's your fault, I lied. Chris is in here, so Vince couldn't stop it. Last time we missed you with that. Town clerk?
Councilor Perry?
Present.
Councilor Janik?
Present.
Councilor Edwards?
Present.
Councilor DeMedeiros?
Here.
Councilor Burke?
Here.
Councilor Milburn?
Present.
Councilor Edwards V is absent.
Consent agenda, approval of town council minutes, November 28th, 2022, regular meeting, November 28th, 2022, executive session. Acknowledge receipt of minutes from boards, commissions, and committees. Historic Preservation Advisory Board 1, Open Space and Land Preservation 1, Zoning Board 1, and Harbor Commission 1. Acknowledge receipts of reports from the Town Administrator Department, monthly reports, November 2022, Police and Fire overtime reports, November 2022. Acknowledge a receipt and correspondence, Town of Little Compton resolution urging the Rhode Island General Assembly to recognize June 19th, Independence Day, as an official Rhode Island state holiday. John, Nahla, Diane, and Karen Ephraim, letters regarding concerns about proposed NorthPoint development project. Councilor deMedeiros, approval of Bay Street moratorium extension to June 30th, 2023. Approval of Town Council 2023 meeting agenda, calendar, Town Clerk, approval of advertisement funds for 2023 annual tree warden appointment. Town Administrator, approval of advertisement funds for part-time senior center bus driver. Would any of the councilors like to take anything from the consent agenda? I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Perry, second by Councilor Edwards. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to move item 8I to the next item on the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Burke, second by Councilor Melbourne. All those in favor? That would be me, Council President deMedeiros, NorthPoint update. I'd like to make an announcement this evening that NorthPoint has terminated their purchase and sales agreement with the town of Tiverton, which was their right to do according to their contract. Escrow was given back, also according to the contract. NorthPoint provided us with all their due diligence during the whole process, which included the wetlands surveys and everything else that they did, that they did during their due diligence. As per contract, they were supposed to do that anyway. NorthPoint, one of the reasons is because of the financial market right now, and all the hoops they needed to go through with the state of Rhode Island. They felt that it was going to take way too long, and their finances were not going to wait for that point. We do hope that they will come back at some point, but as of right now, the land's for sale. Thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to move 7A and 7B to be next on the agenda in the interest of getting these folks out of here.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made in second to move 7A and B to the front of the agenda. All those in favor? Harbor Master annual term expiring 12/31/2023. Tyler Loomis, 89 John Duggan Road, requests annual reappointment with Harbor and Coastal Waters Management Commission recommendation. Tyler, are you here? I don't see Tyler.
He might be thinking he's,
Yeah, he might think he's later on in the agenda. Would you like to wait, or? I have to say that Tyler has did an unbelievable job. He's been doing it for several years now. We took him on as an 18-year-old that wanted to try it, and he's never disappointed us. The Harbor and Coastal Water Management Commission are very happy with what he does, and I, for one, would really recommend Tyler also. I don't know if we want to appoint him or we want to wait till he gets here.
Well, we sort of
We did.
agreed earlier in the year.
Well, this
that
is different.
appointments-
This is different
This is
than,
gonna be
this,
Employee. It's an
this is an,
employee.
yeah, this is an
Well, that's true.
employee.
Okay.
This is an employee. Does anyone have any objections to this or anything?
Not at
No,
all.
no, and the Harbor Commission did send a really nice letter. He's done so much in the years that he's been the Harbor Commissioner. He's done a lot of changes, and there's been a lot of growth. And
Tyler never complains. He's totally enthusiastic about the job he does, and he never says no to anything we request. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we appoint Tyler.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Library Board of Trustees, 7-member board, 3-year term, 1 vacancy. Elise Gomes, 23 Willow Street, request appointment for a term ending 10/15/2025. Is Elise here? There you are, honey. Come on up. So you're new to us.
I am.
So tell us why you want to be on the Board of Trustees.
Well, I am new to the town. My husband and I bought a property here about a year ago, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of learn about the community a little bit more. I'm very passionate about giving back, especially to the youth, and especially through education and development. I work for Bay Coast Bank, which is a community bank, and I'm sure you're all familiar with us. And I'm an assistant branch manager for the Little Compton branch. However, I live in Tiverton, so I would like to be part of the town and be able to give back.
And you want to join a terrific board that will teach you all about community service.
Yes, I
and
mean, I feel like the library isn't just a library here, it's truly just
You
like
meet a lot of great
community
people.
center.
Any questions for Elise? Because there's 1 vacancy and 1 application, we can make a motion to waive our policy.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the policy. All those in,
Dennis might not know what the policy is.
if we had more than 1 candidate for 1 position, our policy is that we wait until the next night so we can think it all over. Gotcha. The next meeting. In many circumstances, when it's like this, we waive the policy.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Dennis. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? I'd like to entertain another motion, please.
I move that we appoint Elise, is that correct, Gomes, to the library board with a term to expire 9/28/23.
No,
25,
25.
10:15.
10, 15,
23 here, but what is it?
No, it's
No,
25.
You're reading, you're reading
10:15.
Tyler.
You're reading, Tyler.
I'm reading the wrong page.
Yeah, that's okay. I do that
25.
often.
10, 15,
10,
25.
15, 25.
I'll second.
Motion's been made in second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's a
Thank you.
great
Thank you.
board, Elise. It's a great board.
Thank you, I'm
Enjoy
so
them.
excited.
We can't tell.
I wish we had more of that enthusiasm. Thank you. Public comments regarding council agenda items or other business. There's been several short-term rentals on here. If everyone's okay with me, we'll hear them all during the conversation. There is a NorthPoint one. I'm not sure if you want to withdraw this after my announcement, or do you want to speak? Okay. Come on up, honey. Hi.
Hello, my name is Karen Ephraim. I live in 74 North Christopher Avenue. So thank you very much, all the members of the Town Council, for giving me a few moments of your time to speak. Thank you very much, President DeMedeiros, for the update on the NorthPoint Development Project. As I'm sure everyone has read my letter at this point. My letter had a number of great concerns, which if in the event NorthPoint does re-entertain the idea of developing that land in the same proposed manner, those concerns would still be valid. And so I also wanted to bring to your attention that I sent the identical letter to the Planning Board, the Zoning Board, the Conservation Commission, the Economic Development Commission, and the Open Space and Land Preservation Commission. I had a lot of concerns, as again noted in the letter, between environmental concerns, what would happen to the wildlife, the habitat, the quality of life of residents, the quality of the impact to the school children for such a facility being in such close proximity to us, with what at the time NorthPoint had been proposing only a 100-foot setback. I also have a lot of concerns regarding, such a project being in close proximity to a drinking water supply. So it is my hope that in whether it's NorthPoint attempting to possibly create another agreement with a town to purchase the same exact property, or any kind of other development company coming in, trying to do any kind of development work, that these kind of concerns are addressed as early as possible in any kind of process, because it was an incredibly concerning project that should have had moved any steps further in the process. It would have just been very difficult for the residents overall.
You do realize that some of the setback problems that's not town-owned, that land?
Correct.
Okay,
but
so-
it's in.
So your concerns may, in the future, go to those landowners too, to see who they want to sell it to also. Because the property that we sold was not as close to your neighborhood as it was because of that other parcel. So just to let you know that too.
Yes,
There was
understood.
many factors there.
Yes. It was a big surprise that it was.
But it is an industrial park, so we can't guarantee what's going to be in there next. And everyone in the neighborhood needs to realize that. It has been zoned industrial. We are, I can speak for the council, we're very careful who we sell it to, and we do realize the impact on people surrounding it. But a lot of the setback problems was that they bought the private property in between.
Yes, it was a proposed purchase that really was shocking to, I know, myself and I believe others, in that it wasn't just the business park land that was being considered and would eventually be in totality of the entire project. It was also that land in between. But again, I just wanted to ensure my concerns were noted, and again, hopefully.
All your concerns have been
yes,
noted. You're not the
yes.
only one in the neighborhood that
Yes.
discussed it with us. And some of us did go to the public sessions and listen to all your concerns also.
Yes.
So thank you
And
very
very
much.
appreciated.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for your time.
You're welcome. Okay. So this is a continued public hearing. Approval of proposed amendment to the Tiverton Code of Ordinance, Appendix A, zoning short-term rentals. Planning board recommendation is enclosed. Councilor Burke, would you like to say a few things before?
Sure.
I
Thank you, Madam
open.
President. Couple things. One is I do appreciate tremendously the response we had from the planning board. I found it very thorough, and it provided us with some good perspective from them. So I don't think anybody from the board is here tonight, but I appreciate that. Secondly, there's been some feedback that what we propose should never have been put out there. I think one of the things that folks who have followed the last council, and most of us are carryovers from that last council, is we will put draft ordinances out there so we can get feedback from folks. We don't want it just to be our ideas. I kind of liken it to when I was a teenager, I worked in a meat plant, and I did watch the sausage get made. And people don't always want to see what goes in the sausage, especially because I did the cleanup. That's even worse. And for 20-some years, I was the lobbyist for a state agency. And I watched laws get made, and I've been involved in making laws or helping laws get made for years. And it's a very similar kind of process where, at the beginning, it might look messy, it might feel messy throughout, but the whole process is intended to get feedback and try to come up with something that is best for, in our case, what we think is best for the town. So, I think that's why we're here. I appreciate the correspondence we've had from both folks who think that we have gone too far in regulating in this ordinance, as well as those who think we haven't gone far enough. And we really do have somewhat of a dichotomy in that regard. I think there's some common issues that have been expressed, such as parking. Addressing parking is a big thing. Addressing on-site wastewater is another big component of it, and quality of life. And I will be very clear that, I think those who operate as STRs in town may understand this from the discussions we've had. I have moved to a position where I recognize that STRs, whether you want to call it that or not, they are a business. And we need to look at them as a business and regulate them as a business. Doesn't mean we can't come to some understanding of how to do that in a way that helps maintain the quality of life for people who bought homes in residential areas with the understanding that they weren't going to have such places in their neighborhood. I'm not sure, but I think we can try. But I will continue to look at this as a business and how do we regulate it as a business. And again, to be clear, if you look at our zoning ordinances, there's a clause in the zoning ordinances that says anything that's not identified in here as an allowable use is therefore not an allowable use. So we have been allowing STRs to operate before this council even, but it's not an allowable use anywhere in town. So, we are giving that courtesy for now. How long we should do that, I don't know. But I do think this council needs to wrestle with how to move forward with this. And lastly, I know there's been suggestions that we form a committee. I believe that's the role of this council, to have the discussion, which we've not really had as a council as a whole because of the public meeting process. We've heard from people, but we've not had a council discussion of what makes sense, what doesn't, other than very early on, which is what helped guide us to where we're at today. But I would hope that after our discussion tonight, the council members will have given some greater direction that the solicitor can work with, and I'm happy to work with him as well as any others to continue this process. I don't see us making any changes tonight or any decisions tonight.
So with that being said, and that was part of my thing, I don't think I know there won't be a decision tonight. It needs a lot of work, and as Mike said, the council really hasn't weighed in on this. We've allowed a lot of public comment. Tonight, I am going to have a shortened public comment. Anyone that's spoken in the past who is just going to come up here and say the same thing, I hope you'll restrain yourself and not do that. I'm sure all of the council has heard your concerns, and we've also received many letters, phone calls, texts, emails. So as I'm looking through this list, I see two names that I see have not spoken yet. We will be timing the same thing as before, 5 minutes. And please try to refrain from coming up and saying.
Three.
We gave 3? Oh, so it's only 3. For some reason, I thought we gave 5. And try to refrain from not coming up and saying the same thing that the speaker in front of you said. The first one that I see, and all of you will be allowed to speak that signed up. But the first one is John Moran Jr. I don't think we've heard from him as of yet.
No, you have heard
Yeah,
from
he
me.
did. John.
By a letter, but not in
No,
public,
John
right?
was here at the
I was at
last.
the last.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
So I don't have a lot of new things to say, so
Well-
I'll sit down.
Okay. How about John Reed? Did you speak last time?
No, he was out of town.
Okay. It seems like a lifetime ago, so
I have spoken before, but not to this. My
just
name's
state your name and address. Thank you.
John Reed, 21 Riverside Drive. I want to speak to you of my neighborhood, which is the first 9 houses in a row at the beginning of Riverside Drive as you go to it from Main Road. They're historic houses. They've been around over 100 years. I've been living there. This is my 9th year, only 6 months of the year. And I've known all my neighbors as friends and as neighbors. When dogs go loose, they're found. When somebody elderly, as I have become, goes out to shovel snow, somebody volunteers to help. When a chimney pot blows off in a storm and a nor'easter, somebody calls and tell you that that's happened. When a boat catches fire, I call Tyler and tell him. When a boat dinghy washes up on the beach, I call him and tell him. When a package is left out in the weather, somebody picks it up and puts it inside doors that are often unlocked. That's a neighborhood. That's something I think everybody in America values, and I think that's something that everybody in Tiverton values. And I read and hear people speak a lot about the quality of life and preserving it and conserving it. And that, to me, is the hallmark of a real quality of life in a real neighborhood, in a real community. That neighborhood is being hollowed out and destroyed by short-term rentals. I've heard and read how there's only 1% and 60 and only a scattering here and there. But in those 9 houses, none were short-term rentals 9 years ago. Then there was one. I would not have complained about one. Well-managed, well cared for, only one. But then there were 2, and now there are 3. That is to say, 1/3 of the houses in those 9 rows are short-term rentals. 2 of those are year-round, wholly short-term rentals, not occupied by their owners or by long-term leaseholders. The 3rd one is more seasonal. You go 2 houses beyond the first 2 houses on Main Road, one of those, which would make 11 houses in a row, one of those is now a year-round short-term rental. So that's 4 out of 11. That's way too much. That is changing that neighborhood. It is becoming a row of motels, rooms. There are 3 houses owned by elderly widows. Eventually, they will likely be on the market. The real estate people who know how to find opportunities, seek opportunities, and monetize opportunities will see them. And their value as motel rooms to be rented in the short-term rental market at amounts of $500 and up a night will be recognized. And some of those will go that way too. And so what was a neighborhood that was historically valued by this community will no longer be a neighborhood of real people living with community, sharing with each other, caring for each other, and looking out for each other. I have recognized in reading everything that's been submitted and everything that was said at the last meeting that there are differences in this issue throughout the town. The rural communities, parts of town are different, where you have houses that are a quarter of a mile away from one another, or a tenth of a mile away from one another. The issues are different. But where you have houses, 5 of these, I'm the one in the middle of the 9. 5 of them are 5 to 10 feet apart. The others are maybe 10 to 15 feet apart. When you have all of those stacked up into short-term rentals, or even half of them, or a third, you are destroying and eroding that neighborhood. Therefore, while I believe that this ordinance in some form should be enacted and there needs to be regulation, I would suggest that there should be absolutely no year-round rentals in a community neighborhood as dense as Riverside Drive, and certainly that am I going too far?
Yeah, I didn't want
But
to
I'm the
like
only one
interrupt.
speaking on this side because most people won't come in
I
here
do
and say it
agree.
because
I do
they're
agree.
afraid.
I do agree. So I just wanted to just let you know, but I will let you go a little further. That's
And
fine.
I count these people as my friends and neighbors, and I've been reluctant to speak out.
Right,
And I've
right.
written to them and said I'm still their friends and neighbors. I don't know whether they are likewise, but somebody has to speak, and most people are afraid to.
We appreciate it.
We
So I would
appreciate
also-
that, and I said that at the last meeting.
So I'd also say that 6 months is too much, because if you give them 6 months, you are giving the incentive to turn the whole thing into a short-term rental. If you can pocket $500 a night for 6 months, well, good, you'll go ahead and do it, and why not? But it shouldn't be allowed. And just one last thing in terms of expectations in neighborhoods. This happens to be a fairly unique zoning, waterfront. And in waterfront, you need a special use permit just to let out a room or have a border. So don't say that people have these rights to do this. They don't have these rights. They don't have the rights to do it in that row of houses and affect that neighborhood. There must be similar neighborhoods. Others are different. It's not a one-size-fits-all. But Riverside Drive is going to be turned into a very expensive row of motels. And that erodes this community and the quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Michael Meyer. You spoke last time. Anything new or the same?
I don't have to edit a couple. I have one or two paragraphs.
Okay, you can come back to the microphone if you like.
Come on up. Come on up.
Michael, you want to come up? Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Yes.
I'll try not to
Yeah, well, we're timing you,
beat a dead
Michael.
horse. Okay. Anyway, Michael Meyer. So after the meeting in November, I executed an APRA request to better gauge the level of the opposition to STRs that we just heard from Mr. Reed that were registered over the past 3 years in Tiverton. In that meeting, Councilman Burke read an email he received from a resident complaining of increase in disruptive activity in the neighborhood, which I guess is Riverside, if I recall. So I wanted to see how widespread this experience and sentiment was. And I have to say, one of the things I just wanted to say, by the way, in my career in real estate and business, I've never come across someone who complained about their home value having increased. But I understand and recognize the balance and issue. So the documents that I did receive from that request were skimpy. There were 3 emails expressing concerns, nothing from the police, nothing from the fire department. The rest were transcripts submitted from all of our statements. So I just wanted to, this really goes to the point that I tried to make last time about impact statements, about really studying and understand the pros and cons and some of the issues that are being brought up here. And from what I can see, there doesn't seem to have been that. If you recall, I made a suggestion that a subcommittee be formed, as Councilman Burke just referred to. So I come back and I'm trying to not repeat some of the things that I've sent. I've submitted this, my statement from tonight, earlier today, so you can read it, and I won't take up more of your time. I do want to say something, though, that is something that I don't think I had time to say last time, which is that, the conclusion of the University of Rhode Island study of STRs produced for the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, I quote, "All municipalities are not created equal and need a customized response when communities seek to regulate STRs." And this is why I propose to the town that it's take its time addressing some of these consequential issues and convene a subcommittee comprised of representatives of key stakeholders and so forth. Along with real estate and legal experts in drafting a regulation that makes sense for the realities our town faces on this issue. It would start with understanding the real impacts STRs pose to Tiverton. My appeal was supported by, I believe, I wasn't sure if Councilwoman Janik was, or another councilwoman, citing the town's positive experience with the recent solar panel ordinance, which was passed after the improvements made by such a subcommittee. I do want to just say, having been in the industry, that Some of this strikes me as NIMBYism, not in my backyard. I think I mentioned that before. There's always this tension throughout the country. It's been written about in the Wall Street Journal. It's part of why we have a housing shortage in this country. There's so much opposition when something new comes along with new development and so forth, and every town has to wrestle with it. I get it. But so I think I speak for most of the STR property owners here and elsewhere by saying we would welcome a participatory process with the town to develop regulations that fairly address all legitimate concerns. There you go.
Thank you. I just want to address your email, your APRA request. Through my experience, and Attorney Marcello will agree with me, none of us required to give any of our emails publicly. And what worries me is I did receive emails on this confidentially, some that didn't go to everyone. I don't want the residents in Tiverton feel that they can speak to me confidentially, and I will release it. Because that's what I think will cause them not to give their opinions. Because a lot of people do not want to come to this forum and hit the opposition they may feel here. So even though I could have released some of the private emails I received, I won't. And I'm not required by law to do that. Because I just feel that if the residents of Tiverton want to talk to me confidentially and tell me their concerns, I will keep their confidence. No, you're done.
Ask a question?
You're done. So I just want everyone to know that, and I want everyone in Tiverton to know, when you email me, I will not release it unless you tell me to. And that, I feel, is important so that I know the temperature of this community. And people aren't afraid to tell me and think that I'm going to release this to everyone and cause a problem for them.
I have a question on a comment you made, Mr. Myers, about, it seemed to me you were suggesting that having STRs will help with affordable housing. Is that what you were suggesting?
No.
Okay. I'm glad you said that, because it would do just the opposite.
And then I also like to, and I would like to also say that not in my neighborhood is sometimes what people say, but I don't think that any of you realize that these people felt that they moved into a small community where, as was described before, you know all your neighbors, you know what's going on there. And then they have strangers coming in every week. They have the right to say they don't want that. You have the right to tell us that you want to rent these properties. So we have to weigh both opinions. But some people do not feel that they think it's fair that they pay the high taxes in Tiverton and they own these properties, and next door to them is a different person every week. It makes them uncomfortable. It makes them not feel safe. So I think that that's important for you guys to realize. It's not that they don't, not in my neighborhood. They just don't feel that this is the way of life they want to live. So we have to weigh both.
If I could just say that it's part of the not in my backyard mentality is a preservationist, to your point, is a preservationist sentiment. And it also, it becomes a stumbling block for change.
But
some of those, and it becomes very controversial.
But these neighbors don't want that change.
But there are people.
They don't want a stranger next door every week.
Unless they're going to go stay in an Airbnb in Europe, right?
If they do that, and that's
Right,
their
that's
own
not
business.
in your
But
backyard.
no. That's not what we're here to say. If people want to go to an Airbnb in Europe, they can. But the people that live in this neighborhood, these neighborhoods, have concerns. And we have to pay attention to their concerns. And that's all we're going to say.
Right over there's a map from 1854 of Tiverton. It's like 100. If that mentality existed for all these years.
I think I've let you speak too much. I'm really sorry, but people are going to complain. Yes.
And I'll make a statement.
And please, I know there's people in the audience that don't agree with what we're saying, and this is a very controversial subject, but being rude, chuckling, and speaking out is not going to be accepted here. And I'm going to say that right now. This is a very difficult decision for us. It's not coming easy for us, and we want to try to make everyone happy, which is going to be impossible, and we realize that. But your sarcasm, your giggling is not helping the situation whatsoever.
So, Mr. Meyer, let me ask you a question. Did you say that you're a Realtor?
Real estate development.
Okay. You've never heard anybody complain about housing values increase? I would recommend that you come to any budget committee meeting or any tax discussion, and you will hear a plethora of people complain about their property values. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what we're saying.
we have many people who complain after an assessment
they get
that their
outright,
property value has gone up.
Outraged about it.
I've heard everybody, yes, we all pay for taxes.
But as a Realtor, you won't hear that because they're going to say, wow.
I'm going to go down this list, and I want everyone to know that I'm going to allow everyone in the room to speak. Nancy Papagino. And I never say your name right, and I totally apologize. I'm not going to make you come up, but just state your address.
I'm stuck on what you just said prior to Mr. Edwards. I'm in the front here, and I can't turn my head, and I am unaware, but I have very good hearing of people snickering and chuckling and being sarcastic. And I do see that you in particular are kiboshing people from, particularly Michael, from asking a question when he wasn't quite off podium. I feel as if there is a need for the council, legitimately in part, to control, but to the extent where you're going to tell us who can talk for how long, 3 minutes, and not a second more, and don't you dare smile behind me, snicker, or be sarcastic. You're not allowed to do that. And I feel like I'm back in the Catholic school with the nuns taking thing and whapping.
Okay, well, I have to tell you that this is Robert's rules, and I do have a right to limit the amount of speaking. The reason why I do this isn't my first rodeo. I've done many of these that have gone on nights and nights. And it doesn't allow the council to speak and formulate an opinion. And by the way, the lady right in back of you was snickering while I was trying to speak. So I think that is rude. And I will allow people to speak, and I think I've been very free to allow people to speak. A matter of fact, Mike spoke last time, and I gave him more than 3 minutes last time, I believe. And then I just gave him 5 minutes. I'm just trying so that we can make logical decisions here. And we understand that you're angry. We understand that people here, this is their living, this is a business. But we are trying to make everyone happy here in Tiverton, every homeowner and taxpayer happy here in Tiverton. So I'm limiting it because how long are we gonna go on like this?
Then I have one other remark, if I can say it succinctly. You, each time we've met, or at least these past 2 times, you bring up in particular things that have been said to you in private.
Right.
Okay? I can respect that. But you say it, at least I perceive it, as if you are getting a bank full of these complaints. None of them are conveyed when, I don't know the initials, when the request for information is requested.
APRA.
So the way you articulate it, it could be perceived that there are 100 complaints to the 2 or 3.
There are many, many complaints. I was at Town Market this weekend, and 3 people came up to me. I don't even know who they were, but they told me about properties in their town. I was at Stop and Shop. I was stopped by 2 people. My phone rings. Yes, there might not be hundreds and hundreds, but there are people in this community concerned, and I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. And I don't have to, like half these people who talk to me, I really can't tell you who their names are. But I'm approached almost daily by people talking to me.
The fact that there are no facts here. We hear you and believe.
But the fact is, and there is a fact, that these people in these communities are uncomfortable with strangers coming in and out every week. And also, some people are concerned because they don't even know who owns these properties. So if there's a problem, who do they call?
Is there a polling of people, say, in my neighborhood?
We don't
who
have
not
to,
complained?
we don't have to
Of
do.
course you don't. I'm saying it's a little unbalanced.
All right, but we haven't even made
Okay.
this policy yet, and people are angry. We haven't even decided what's gonna be in this. And I'm telling you, we've taken every single one of your opinions. We're trying to work it out. I have looked at this policy over and over. We're trying to work it out. So maybe not everyone's gonna be happy. Probably not one person will be happy, but it'll be a compromise. It'll be a compromise.
$100 back in, and forgive me, I don't remember the month, let's call it November or whenever, not just this November.
A year ago.
A year ago, the $100, when most people, my perception, my memory is that we all left thinking, this is a fairly good compromise, it's a reasonable amount of money, and the next thing we know, some months later, it's $1,000.
Well, this-
And that alone can spark something you're referring to as anger.
Well, that's
I'll
a,
end my 3 minutes.
that's a lot to do with, there's people that own multiple properties. And I feel that if you're gonna run a business in town and inconvenience some residents, then the residents need to get something back. And it might be more than $100. But this, like the gentleman just said, in some cases, we're running a motel here. And any motel in any city or town pays extra taxes because of that. So that's what we're looking at. It went from 100 to 1,000, yes. Is 1,000 the final number? Absolutely not. We haven't even made that decision yet. Thank you, Nancy. Larry?
Kittlemore.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try your name, go ahead.
Well, I will come up to the microphone.
Yeah, I just need you to say your address, please.
Consider it.
Well,
You can sit down.
yeah, it's fine. I'm representing 15 Lawrence Court, which is Nancy. I am a 50-plus year transportation planner, traffic engineer. I deal with land use. In order to do any kind of forecasting of future year traffic, you have to do land use planning. I'm pretty versed in what needs to be done here. And it starts with some sort of an impact statement of what's really going on, where real facts are put forth, not people's opinion at marketplaces and in letters, or even at here. I've worked with Nancy about traffic, which is one of the major concerns, I believe, here. And we have very carefully made sure that there is never a traffic problem at 15 Lawrence Court because of the STR that does exist there. And it will always be the case. It's signed where people are to park before they ever are accepted. They're told where they have to park. They're told that they can have only one vehicle on site. Everything has been done to protect the neighborhood. Before this was ever entered into, the people within sight distance of 15 Lawrence Court were informed that this was being considered. None of them have expressed any concern with that. None of them have expressed any concern since it began several years ago to us. I don't know what they've done to you, but I know to us there has been no feedback on the negative side of things. And from a professional to some of you who are also professionals, you know that this needs to be studied. You need to properly have both sides in the same, if it's not room, in the same process, feeding back and forth what their concerns are. And do it any other way, and you're going to have a lot of angry people. You're going to have a lot of seasons-type things, as the Secundit Times put on their front page this week. There are going to be appeal processes. There's going to be all sorts of things. You're opening yourself up to that. Why? It costs money.
Both sides are part of the process. That's why we have these public hearings, sir.
But we're here.
Yeah, and we're
Where
listening.
are the ones, other than the gentleman who spoke, who speak in Tom's Market and other places? Come here and speak. And then we'll know what their concerns are, and they can be addressed.
They can be
But
addressed
you're
when we have a
fighting
new
in
ordinance put
smoke.
out.
We are addressing them. We are addressing them.
And there'll be a new
But
version
it
put
doesn't
out.
appear, we would like to see
It's
it,
over, but I didn't start.
is
right
what
away.
we're saying. We'd like to see it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
John, you're next.
John Moran, 46 Riverside Drive.
Hi, John.
5 generations of my family have lived in Tiverton on Riverside Drive. We own 3 homes there, waterfront and the other side of the street. Now, let's get into this a little bit. Okay, we've agreed it's a business. And essentially what's happened here, folks, is these businesses have been allowed to operate outside of zoning without any rules whatsoever. Basically illegal businesses, if you really look at the zoning. Well, now we're talking about making some rules for these businesses, and there's a lot of pushback. Now, I'm a business person myself, and I'd like somebody to find me a business that has 0 rules. Where is it? I'd like to be in that business. There isn't a business without 0 rules. It doesn't work that way. But just to give you an idea of like what we've been dealing with down there, this September, there was a wedding. Now, keep in mind, this wedding was in Bristol. It wasn't in Tiverton. Well, the wedding party rented out like 3 of these houses. And what happened? The whole neighborhood was plugged with cars. And I'm talking all the way down to the yacht club. There was no parking for them. There was no parking for the residents. Because what happened was the wedding goers all parked their cars there and got on a trolley bus to go to Bristol to this wedding. It was like a circus. It's unacceptable. You know, and if you look at this, you know, people are saying, oh, only bring 3 cars. Oh, those houses don't have parking for one car. Each one of them does not have one off-street parking space. And, you know, it's out of hand. It's changing the face of the neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that had kids and families, either summer residents or year-round residents, and everybody got along. It was perfect. Well, it's not like that anymore. And these aren't rented by the week, they're rented by the night. So you got a car from Iowa one day, it's New Jersey the next, it's Texas. And I'm not saying these people who are operating these things are doing a bad job. They probably are doing a good job for their customers, but what about their neighbors? Nobody seems to care about that. They only care about the money. And if there is something if there is some committee, I would volunteer to be on it. And that's just my 2 cents on this.
Thank you,
Thank you,
John.
John.
Anyone else like to speak? I see Barbara has her hand up. Yep, I'm going to let everyone speak.
Okay, so you can hear me. Barbara Martin, Neck Road. I wasn't here for the last public hearing. I know Susan read my concerns. This is something a little different. because in the meantime, I spoke with the town administrator in Warren to find out why they were considering a permit or a license instead of a zoning. And so Kate got back to me and she said, to date, we have discussed a registration because it is an easier process and it seems to work well in the towns that follow this model. We currently have 38 active rentals in town, and it would be extremely cumbersome to send them all to zoning. Our zoning board is very busy already, and it would also be expensive and burdensome for the property owners. That is just kind of an addition to what I have said before, that a special use permit goes with the land and it's forever, making that particular property always a commercial property. Whereas a license can be renewed yearly and conditions can be put on that license. I think it gives the town more control. Another thing she did say was, we are anticipating that whatever gets put into regulations at this point will need to be reviewed and possibly revised as we see how implementation rolls out. So whatever you put together, you may decide in 6 months, you know, we're going to have to tweak this. It's going to be very hard for you to tweak a special use permit because in that, if those properties that have been given them, once they're given them, I mean, they're grandfathered. So that's my point. All the other points that Susan mentioned, of course, I don't have to reiterate. You know what they are. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Barbara, if I may, Madam President, just to note, we have looked at both sides of that, as you said, the STRs versus the registration, but on advice of counsel, I don't know if you want to speak to that, Michael.
So you're correct that there are some towns that are doing it by permit, but it's my legal opinion, again, it's just my legal opinion, but the other towns are following that. Cities and towns, when they issue a license, which is really a permit, they have to look for a statute that gives them that authority to issue that permit. And currently, like a dog license, permit, I can find the statute. Hawkers and peddlers, I can find the statute that gives the cities and towns that authority. There's no current statute in Rhode Island law that allows cities and towns to issue licenses for STRs. Can I just, 1 second? And one of the reasons of the benefit, at least I believe, and the council is leaning towards the special use permit, is because it provides notice to the neighbors of within a 200-foot radius.
I think the neighbors are probably fully aware. So let's see, Portsmouth, Middletown, I think Jamestown. Warren's still working on their ordinance. But this is how they seem to have based their findings. The Constitution of the State of Rhode Island, Article 13, Section 2, grants to the town of Portsmouth the power to enact and amend laws relating to its property, affairs, and government, as long as such local laws are consistent with the Constitution and laws enacted by the General Assembly. This delegation of power includes the police power to enact reasonable legislation to regulate and supervise rental dwellings in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare. So that seems to be how they're doing that until the state catches up. At one point, there was no outdoor wood burning boiler legislation. The state didn't have it. So the towns had to come up with their own ordinance. Tiverton came up with their own ordinances. Other communities did. Eventually, the state came up with some language which they put into legislation. Sure as shooting, this is going to happen at the state level. They just haven't gotten there. The governor did want to make sure that all of the short-term rentals were registered with the state. So there's that, but there are no guidelines. There need to be guidelines for anything. And as someone mentioned, I don't know, these are businesses. These are hotels. And although they're not considered hotels per se, they are hotels. There was a letter in the Providence Journal by someone in Warwick who was talking about micro hotels that have They don't have the same guidelines that other hotels do, particularly with fire ordinances, what they should be doing. So I think it's possible, even though I think that those who live with short-term rentals around them will know they'll come when the licenses are given. I think that...
Barbara, your time's up, but I'll
I'm
let
sorry.
you just... No, just finish this sentence.
I think that whatever these other communities are using as a guideline, which is in the Constitution, could be done here.
Thank you. Next person. Yep.
That gentleman there was, sorry.
All right, so there's three of you, so let's fight it out. Who's going to be?
First off, I apologize for snickering. It was only the retort that if people who are upset here about Airbnbs want to use them in another country, that's cool. That doesn't, I'm sorry I chuckled at that, but it seemed sort of NIMBYism. But anyway, so apologies to everyone. I think the people on Riverside Drive, I have to say, as somebody who has a short-term...
Excuse me, I just need you to say your name and
I'm sorry.
address.
I'm sorry. Marisa Bartolucci, 200 Neck Road. Okay. I just wanted you to know that I feel for you, and I think you have totally legitimate reasons to be distressed. Completely. And I did not, when the man in the blue, I don't know your name, I forgot. No, in blue.
John.
Last time you spoke, you did not go into your personal situation, so it was very hard to really understand why you were as angry as you were, or are legitimately, understandably. As a Tiverton resident, I just wanted to say that I live in my house where I rent out a suite, and I would never rent the suite out if I wasn't there. And in fact, I would never rent out my house if I wasn't there. Like, I wouldn't even do that. So there are a lot of people like me who do this to just make extra income to pay taxes. I think we're actually in a different situation than people who actually buy houses and rent them out, like has happened on Riverside. And I wonder if there's a way, if we had a committee to discuss this, that there might be some sort of, varying degree of, of how everyone is treated. And I think that's also what Ms. Martin was saying, that, maybe there's some sort of more comprehensive way of addressing this rather than treating all short-term rentals exactly the same. Because in my case, I do not consider it a hotel. It's my house. And I happen to have a very beautiful view of Nonquit Pond, and I live there alone. And I actually feel it's sort of my duty. And of course, I do realize I make money off of it, to share it to people, with people who couldn't afford to stay in a hotel in the summer in the area. Like, my prices are much less than Newport. So I just want you to know that it's not like, we're raking in money. I don't make $500 every night. I make $150, and I leave it at that price simply because, for two people, simply because I want people, young people who want to come here to enjoy it and be able to afford to come here and enjoy it. So I just want that to be clear, because when you say $500, it sounds like, well, everybody is doing it. Everybody who does Airbnb, they're making $500 a night. That's not true. And the reasons you do it and why you do it here are different. I think this is a beautiful place, and I like to share it with people who have heard about it and wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to stay here. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next. Yeah, it's you or him. No, he's very much a gentleman. He's letting all the ladies go.
Holly Demaro, Old Stone Church Road, Tiverton. I want to say one thing before I read my prepared.
I was reading in the, I had taken out the book, The Patchwork of Tiverton. Many of you have seen that, I'm sure. It's in the library. It's a fascinating book about the history of Tiverton. And there's a real history of summer people and, renting of cottages in this town, and Little Compton, too. So I would recommend that read. But I think that it speaks to the structure of the town and the history of it. So 8 years ago, my husband and I purchased an abandoned home, and on Riverside Drive, 282 Riverside Drive, and I respect my neighbors who have spoken already. We had a different experience. My husband and I are both designers, and we basically bought this abandoned home, put $300,000 in it, renovated it, and have developed a really pleasing home with a fantastic view. Our neighbors are happy. I think we mentioned last time their family that arrives, they don't have the space for them, they spill over to our property. We do have a little community in our little neck of the woods there. The town is happy. We've increased the yearly taxes from $2,300 to $7,900, which, I think we're contributing. We rent it winters for 9 months, and then we do the short term in the summer. We keep the house in tip-top shape, and we use local people to help us do that, cleaning, maintenance, et cetera. Renting a short-term rental is not a bonanza in terms of income. I mean, it helps, and it helps maintain our investment. It is helping us to augment our retirement, but, as I said, it's not a bonanza. What does it do for the town? As I mentioned, we keep it well-maintained, we pay high taxes. The state of Rhode Island automatically charges 8%, of which the town of Tiverton gets 1%, as I'm sure you know. And the local spending by our guests is considerable. Some people eat out every single night, and, a lot of people have mentioned this before. They spend a lot of money in the town. And I think that we call this soft income. They come, they vacation, they spend money, they go home. They're not putting kids in school and adding to services. My husband was on the planning board, and Louise Durfee would stress, read the comprehensive plan. That is where the town articulates its future planning. The comprehensive plan encourages tourists and their spending. This helps keep our property taxes in check. Local businesses very much appreciate tourism as well. We don't have any motels, hotels, so we need rentals for people who are visiting Tiverton. But these places are not motels. They're not. They're renting out a whole house, and they're living in the house like you do as a resident. We understand this short-term rental is a statewide issue, and state laws need to be resolved before a proper ordinance is written. And I think the idea of a committee to really get to the bottom of it as well makes sense. And I think the amount of effort and cost that is needed by the town to implement and monitor a special use permit, it far exceeds the advantage. So I like the idea of the former suggestion.
Your time's just about out, so just.
Okay, all right, hold on. I would say that if I didn't own a short-term rental, I would still be in favor of it. We've met a lot of great people. We've had business owners that have profited from this, our friends who run restaurants, et cetera. So anyway, I appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
3 miles.
Oh, yes, I forgot. The thing that
Come on
does.
now. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. The thing that does really bother us is in the ordinance, it says you have to live within 3 miles of your vacation rental. And I just see no reason for that, and we're against it.
Okay.
We get to our property in 12 minutes.
How many
And
miles are you from your?
We're 8.5. So,
I think we're looking at more of the long distance. I think that's what we were trying to get there. So that if we need somebody there, the police can get somebody there quickly.
well, and I respect that. I mean, nobody,
it's-
and nobody who owns these wants to have that
Right.
kind of problem or issue.
Right.
So people have to have things set up, in place, but thank you.
The gentleman in the corner, it really is your turn. No, because he had his hand up too. He let all, okay, you're next.
Sorry, Paddy Cashin. I'm also representing Jen Miguel, Tony Street, and Tiverton there. Yeah, I mean, I've heard, lots of, arguments here, but, the ordinance as proposed now, as I think Michael Burke there referred to it or mentioned in the last hearing, that it seems like a hammer to solve this problem. It's more like a sledgehammer, actually. You've got to bear in mind that, there are various circumstances here, and all STRs, don't even like the word STR, it's kind of like a disease. I understand.
That's something different.
I understand your man over there, your problems over there in Riverside. I totally understand that situation there. So, I'm with you on that to some extent. But, a lot of the STRs, you heard the lady over here speak and her circumstances. Our circumstances are, we bought a, Jen grew up here, she went through the school system, her parents have been here for decades, or what, her father's recently deceased. But we bought a place here down by Fogland there, just to be able to come down here, see the family. There were some illnesses in the family. Then circumstances changed. Life throws a curveball at you. And then we decided we wanted to move down here full time. We did. But the cottage was just a little bit on the cramped side for us, bear in mind I'm moving from the city and everything like that. So we did buy a place. We looked around in Tiverton, Little Compton around. We found a great place, literally, 2 miles away, but it's over the border in Little Compton. Right, it's just over the border. I can walk there along the beach in 15 minutes. So we're right there. So the ordinance as it stands right now is, it's prohibiting for us. And we're almost owner occupied because we're literally right down there, and and also there are rules and regulations that the owner can impose, and also the mechanisms by which you promote your property. You can control them through there. That you can state the number of people, parking, etc., etc. And I kind of feel like short-term rentals are being tarnished with the same brush. I said that last time as well. Sorry for repeating myself. But I said that last time, and that's, you got to think that we're all in different circumstances here. And it's not, to me, do I consider it a business? Not really, no, because, I have friends and family come over and I need some of them to stay.
You own one short-term rental?
I do one, yeah. I mean, that's my particular situation,
Right.
but I understand, there are some great properties here. I think, I can't remember, there's a number of, prestigious houses around here or properties that look great and they've been renovated. And I kind of feel like, the town can feel proud of some of those because it's providing, kind of great lodgings for visitors to come and invest their money or spend the money in Tiverton. There's some, you kind of got to feel that's, they're not imposing the problems like on River Street. So, anyway.
So you're 2 miles away, but you're in Little Compton.
We're in Little Compton, so the
because you're
rule
right
is,
on the line.
when I read the ordinance, it said you
I
had to be a
understand why
Tiverton
you're
resident.
concerned. Yep.
And Little Compton and Tiverton were,
Right, but you are 2 miles away from your rental property.
yeah. I mean, and we manage the place, and we a lot of the furnishings for the property I've bought locally. My wife goes to the cheese wheel, every week. So, and
So do I.
for every single, guest we have, she goes and buys one of your delicious pastries, and she stocks up, covers, me, I feel whatever. So we do provide, we do use local contractors. All our the cleaning services we use are all local, etc., etc.
Right.
So it's kind of, and I know other people in the same situation, as we are. So yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I think, yeah, I know.
Hi, my name's Chris Souza. I spoke last time. I have a one home in Tiverton. First thing I want to do is acknowledge the gentleman over there. I wish more people would come in like them. Because we just found out something tonight. We have a real problem over on a portion of Riverside that needs to be dealt with. And there's no anger here, it's frustration. I do run my homes, multiple, as businesses. I know my neighbors. Some of them come to my house for dinner. I plow some of their driveways. This is in multiple towns around here. I live 5 miles from my rental home in Tiverton, so I have a fast car. I could get there if I had to.
Do you live in Tiverton or you live?
I don't live in Tiverton. I live in
Okay.
Middletown, Rhode Island.
All right, but you're 5 miles away.
I'm 5 miles away. So it's frustration to be painted with this broad brush, as Patty said. So, but again, I wish more like them came in so that we could see more of these problems and hear them, and we could try to help these people out. That's what we did in Middletown. We actually chased out a couple of the bad houses last year. We formed a committee, and we actually had a meeting last night where I got some facts, so hopefully I'll have time to read them to you. In Middletown, there's 400 rental homes, unlike 60 here. So roughly have about 6 or 7 times as many rental homes in Middletown, Rhode Island. There were 43 complaints between April 29th and the end of September. We got that information. Those were complaints that went to the new zoning ordinance officer. Of the 43 complaints, 1 was a noise complaint. So 400 rental properties, 1 noise complaint, 20 trash complaints, 15 parking complaints, and 7 unregistered homes. Okay, so if you take those out, you really had 36 complaints, 1 noise complaint. Parking's a big deal, I think, in your situation, all the cars. And again, I wish more folks came in and spoke out against this. I brought in my registry, who I rented to. I'm going to read them real quick. And it's worth hearing.
Is that going to be all right with them?
It's worth hearing. I'm not going to say their names.
Okay.
Since July, okay? Hi, Chris, coming with my 2 sisters, college-age kids, to do a university tour. Want to relax and sightsee. Next one. And some of these have responses because I always ask people who come for weddings, nothing at the house. Coming for my son's wedding, answering your questions, no wedding events, no parties at the house, no meals at the house, no guests at the house. Just for sleeping, we have 1 well-behaved dog. Hi, interested in renting your home. We're a quiet family group. My husband, 2 daughters, their husbands with 3 small children. Okay, I have a 6-bedroom septic system, so I can have, I've maxed out at 12 people. Wondering about nearby beaches and possibility of taking my toddler fishing. Next one. Our daughter is getting married in Bristol. No parties at the house, just for sleeping. Next one. Good afternoon, Mr. Souza. My brother is graduating from Officers Training School, Army, in September. We will be a small group, and we will be hosting his commanding officer for brunch and would like a nice home to do this. Hi, Chris. 10 adults, 57 to 65, 3 cars coming for sightseeing. Hello, Chris. We are a group of 8 lady friends that met in London 20 years ago when our husbands were working there. We have managed to get together every year in the U.S. We're unable to get together because of COVID. Looking forward to exploring Tiverton. Next one. It's my birthday. I'm turning 60. Guests are ages 42 to 67. We are excited to have a sightseeing weekend. Next one. Sibling trip with spouses. No kids, thank God. Next one. Hi, Chris. My family is looking for a house to rent while my dad is in hospice at his house in Tiverton. Next one. Thanksgiving one more. There's 2 more.
You promise? Okay.
Promise. It's important that you know who these people are. Next one. Thanksgiving family gathering, 9 of us total. Next one. Hi, Chris. We are looking to gather our family down for Christmas. Our son is on the Roger Williams basketball team, and we need to be close by campus so he can practice. We have 10 adults and 1 well-behaved dog. I just want you to know that's my big Victorian house where I can put 12 people. Those are the people that were in my house from July until this Christmas. I suspect the problems that this town is having are with the people who aren't sitting in this room. I'd like to meet that Riverside landlord who has several houses in your neighborhood to have a good talking to him, because that's what we do in Middletown. We get these phone numbers, we call these people, and we try to educate them. You can't go in and wreck a neighborhood. In my opinion, it's not even smart to go in and buy a house where you have established houses next to
Now,
you.
do you have off-street parking?
I have about 20 spots. I have 2.5 acres.
Yeah, you're over here right off.
I'm the
Lee
yellow
Road.
Victorian
Yeah.
right on 16th.
Oh, all right.
I
I know
know
where
my
you are.
next door neighbor. I talk to him
I know where you are.
occasionally. He's never had a
But you
problem.
do have off-street parking.
Tons of it. But I only allow 6 cars. That's the other thing. If you've got a 2-bedroom house, you should be telling people to bring 2 cars, no
That's
more. Find another spot for it.
I agree.
Carpool. It's not fair. It's not fair to people who live in the town. You got to run these You got to run these businesses responsibly. They are businesses. They need to be regulated. There needs to be an ordinance. And I know I gave you what I
Yep,
thought
no,
would be
and
a.
we appreciate that.
And,
And those are, we definitely know we need to address parking. All the things that you said that you do with your folks that
And
stay there.
also trash, you
Yeah.
brought to my mind since.
But every
since
business
you left
owner
me.
needs to be responsible. There's always a bar that overserves someone and they drunk drive, but you don't go after the other 30 bars in the town for doing things the right way. And that's what we saw in Middletown. We have 2 houses that were a problem in the whole town, and we got rid of them.
So how did you do that?
One guy got kind of just chased out of town for being hounded. And the other guy made amends with his neighbor. His neighbor came in irate. And, you know, once you're under the microscope like that, a lot of people find out about it. No one, look, it is important that people go to Europe and travel. We all go stay at Airbnbs. Maybe not everyone, but like it's the new way to travel. But if you're going to have a house, you better do it
I just meant
responsibly.
it doesn't pertain to what we're discussing here.
A little bit. We need a
We need
committee
to
in this
regulate.
town. We need short-term rental owners to educate and go after people who are doing it the wrong way. And you need an ordinance, a parking ordinance, a
Yeah.
trash ordinance.
Trash ordinance,
No
parking.
events, no parties, that type of thing.
And what's interesting is you did mention your septic.
Septic's important.
Some people aren't paying attention to that either. I know the house on the side of me isn't, because I know what their septic is, and there's 10 cars there for a whole
Well,
weekend. So-
theoretically, if you have a 2-bedroom house, you should probably have 4 people in it.
Correct.
Maybe a couple kids.
Right, so if you have a 3-bedroom house, it should be 6 to 8.
6 people.
Right.
In Middletown, the code is children under 12 aren't counted as people.
They still,
I have 3 of them.
Even
so-
though they could take the
Yeah.
longest showers.
but they still flush the toilet, and sometimes several times.
Thank you.
Other, yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Right, other toilet paper, yeah. All right. Okay, anyone else? I'm sorry, come on up. I have a bit of a headache that's really starting to bother me.
You want to take a break?
It's almost.
Yeah, I'm Alex Buffman. How you going? I'm just I have a house and I'm
What
just
is your address?
26 Pierce Avenue.
Okay.
So I'm a merchant mariner, right? So I bought a house and I rent it through Airbnb when I'm away, and you know it's a little bit of a business or something, but I certainly haven't had any complaints with my neighbors and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff's already been covered. I'm just putting my name 2 cents in that I have this rental, and Airbnb is kind of morphed into something that they didn't expect it to become, but that's just the nature of things. But as far as what I do, it's just when I'm working, and if I can rent it out, boom, I'm renting it. And then it's just simple. I have a local property manager that comes in there, and if there's any, I talk to my neighbors after the whole summer, everyone's cool with it. So that's just what I'm saying. It's worked out so far for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's got the property neighbors. Anyone else? Okay. Anyone else? All right, so I'm going to close the public hearing. And councilors, what would you like to do? Who'd like to go first? My opinion is, if anyone has any suggestions that you want to change, and there's probably tons, if you want to go through that with us now.
Well, if you're going to close the public hearing,
I closed it, it's done.
then, number one, I think we should not vote at this, at this time.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's what.
We should continue to have a discussion about it, not necessarily right now.
Well, I think, what I really think is if there's anything that you really want, that you object to in here, and that you want to change, Mike Marcello and Mike Burke can come with another draft. I'll give you one of my concerns. I think especially now that we're paying for trash to be transported and recycling to be transported, I'm not, and I do know the difference between someone who's living in their home and renting their home, because they're gonna make sure their recyclables are legal. They're gonna go out there and look at it and say, yes. I understand that they're gonna take care of their trash, because they live there. I'm saying the non-occupied ones, okay? I think and I think you brought this up, that some communities, they have to hire their own pickup. And I think that that's smart, especially right now, in light of the fact of our new transporting of trash. And I think you all need to know that our trash is looked at through the people that are collecting it, and we get fined. And I think anyone who listened at the last meeting, if plastic bags are put in our recyclable bins, we get fined for that. If things are in there that doesn't belong in there, we get fined. So, and no disrespect to owners that don't live there, but you don't know what's being put in those recycle bins. And you probably, trash is already picked up before you even realize it. So I think that non-occupied short-term rentals, they should hire their own trash pickup. I think the private homes where they are living there, and of course, I'm sure you check your recycle bin after they leave. I think that's different. That's the first thing. The second thing is parking. It's a huge issue here. And a lot of people, and I know we've discussed this before, want no off-street parking. And I know that becomes a problem with people.
No on-street.
On-street, I'm really sorry, you know what I mean? I have a really bad headache, I don't know if you can tell. And it's not because of you guys, I came in here with it. So I know that becomes a problem to people that don't have off-street parking. But it is a problem, and Riverside is, and you just all heard it. So I think that that's an issue we have to address. Someone like you, who can fit 20 cars, but only 6 or 8 people can stay there, that's not an issue. Parking's not an issue. So I do think that we need to look at different situations and make rules according to those situations, and not look at this as one big blanket. And you've all brought that to our attention, and I don't think that Mike ever didn't think that, but they produced this to hear this input. And
But to you, how could that possibly be done?
wait a minute.
Really?
What can be done legally?
How can you differentiate that way?
We can do, yes, we can put that in the ordinance. An ordinance is anything the town council decides. So we can put home occupied by owner, these are the rules.
Oh, yeah, that part.
Okay. Well, how can we make sure people aren't parking on the streets?
You must already have rules in Tiverton about that.
Well,
And that's
What Newport does, you get the parking
Right.
pass, right?
Yeah,
And
residents-
I guess
residents
that's-
stickers.
yeah.
Right. I mean, and you are right, neighbors have to speak out too. If you're in a neighborhood and you have a short-term rental and there's 3 people in the driveway and there's 6 cars, you need to call the police. You need to call the police, and then that brings it to our attention, and that's how we can talk to owners. And that's how we can say, if you don't conform, there's a problem here. But if you don't speak out also, and you don't bring it to the police's attention, then there's no report. And that is true. So I think parking and trash is a major thing. I think the fees we should talk about. And I don't know if you all agree with me.
Yeah, tiered fee.
So like a tier fee, the same
tier fee,
thing.
yeah.
If you live in your home and you're renting out a room or a studio, and it's that one, then, and your home with the studio, it should be a different fee. If you are owner occupied and you're renting this every week or every day, and it is become more of a business than these people that are just trying to supplement their income while they're living in this home, then it should be a different fee. But I think it should be tiered, and I think that should be all discussed. So we did fees, parking, trash,
Events and parties,
events and parties, no, absolutely not. No events,
and on-site wastewater,
yeah, no events or parties.
which we did try to address on-site wastewater in it.
And- which is the septic. and what your house has been licensed, what the DEM says can occupy your home.
Your septic system is a rating on how
Yeah,
much
but,
you can put in
right,
a house.
right, so this is us,
You've got
right,
all the controls
right. I'm
you
gonna try
need.
not, right.
You just have to apply
Well,
them.
that's what I'm trying to say. So wastewater, parking, trash.
Can I also add,
You had smoke inspections, I think.
Well, health and safety, and we've talked about that. Just like any hotel or business, or even your own home, you have to have the proper safety there. So that should be inspected. How often? I'm not sure. But we need to discuss that.
I think typically, I don't know about you, but my insurance company requires that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Came out
I'm
and
sure they
made
do.
sure-
Okay. Okay. So Deb, what was the, I'm
What-
gonna
the
go
other thing
Deb
is-
and Jay, is that all right?
when we talked about, it says in here, Tiverton, a resident of Tiverton resides within 3 miles, maybe just a resident of Tiverton, or, because then we've got people like Little Compton, or
Right.
they live in Westport. Like it can be a Tiverton resident or
Well, I don't think it
outside
matters.
Tiverton within so many miles.
I think our concern was that when we pick up the phone and say someone needs to be here, they need to be here, right? You all agree. So,
Right, or
if-
has a
so I think we need a mileage, but I don't think we have to put lives in Tiverton. So if we put like a 10 to, whatever, a 10 mile or 15 mile, and it's true, we have Little Compton, we have Fall River, we have, this is really not a public hearing, I'm really sorry, but just so
At
that
least
the
we're getting
council.
feedback.
Yes, just so, we will ask for feedback once this comes back up, okay, when this is gonna take months. So nobody needs to get excited about this. This is gonna take months, this is gonna take a lot of brainstorming, this is gonna take a council to all work together. Mike Marcello, Mike Burke has offered to put all our thoughts into the next one, then we come back and talk about it again. I'm hoping this gets done by the spring, because that's when the high rental starts. So Deb, you're right.
I had a couple other
Okay.
things. So I really like the idea Mr. Souza had with a letter, because I have rented short-term rentals when we've gone on
What
vacation.
letter, Deb?
What?
What letter?
The letter, well, he talks to people and says no parties, no this, no
It's
that.
correspondence to his.
Yes, okay.
So we've done that because we've gone away for weddings or whatnot. And having a whole family in a short-term rental, we can have breakfast together, we can have dinner together, we can go out. But we have gotten very specific, only this many cars, and there's always been a driveway. No pets or no smoking or whatever. And if you don't want to abide by those rules, you don't rent it. So I think something like that, these are the ordinances, and if you're going to rent to people, you need to be responsible for that, your guests need to be responsible. My daughter just rented a big, huge 7-bedroom house on the Cape, and they were told that they would forfeit their deposit if they had more cars, if they had loud parties, if they didn't abide by the rules. So, not that we want to we don't want to punish the people who are doing the right thing. Bringing people into town, that's great. But then we just really need to look at the Riverside Avenue people, because we don't want to punish them either. And I totally respect that.
Somebody mentioned last meeting of a general contract that you all have to have signed. So this general contract would be everything we're talking about right now. The town of Tiverton does not allow off-street parking for this, and so.
On-street parking.
On-street, why do I keep? So, and then if you all have that, then we can be assured that you are following our rules also. You know what I'm saying?
Can I ask a question on behalf of, if she's only renting to 2 people inside her home or within her property, would that fall under the borders as a permitted use for her? Would they just be exempted from this?
Still a short-term rent.
No,
Well,
is
there's
that
there's an
water?
ordinance here.
Yeah, you're right, and I've
Borders
asked
up
this,
to 2 people.
I've asked this question before. Didn't I? I asked somebody.
Taking of borders or renting of rooms
Yeah,
by
but there's a
resident
border, there's a border
Not to
ordinance.
exceed 2 rooms or borders is permitted
Yeah.
under R 30, 40, 60, and VC Village.
From the DC Village?
Yeah. So I mean, Nancy, for you, if you're not renting to more
I'm
than
not
two
giving legal
people,
advice here right now, but I
we're
can
not-
look at it, but it could be exempted.
maybe you're-
Yeah, because I asked that question.
If
Someone,
it's allowed as a matter of right now.
It is, yes, permitted use, so, I mean, that was just.
I don't know if we define what a border is, if it's more than more than
They
2
didn't
weeks.
define a time on that.
It does?
No, it doesn't, it just says renting of rooms by a resident family not exceed two roomers, two
yeah.
roomers or orders.
That was my question.
I have to tell you that somebody, yes, someone did call me and brought that up to me because they heard this lady speak the other day. And they asked me if she would be under the border ordinance. So yes, that was brought up to me by,
That would apply to.
yeah, by somebody that was watching this. We closed, oh, okay, you're listening.
I appreciate the colloquy you're having with these people. I thought I might join.
Yeah, come on.
And add in, I think a threshold question is whether you want to allow a business to operate 12 months of the year,
Right.
365 days of the year, in a densely populated
Right.
areas of the town. I mean, I think that's the first thing before trash and all of everything
Right, but
else.
don't you understand if we have a parking rule
Oh,
and
yes.
it's a dense part of town, then it's not allowed there?
Or if we exclude certain zones.
Right.
From allowing this altogether, sir.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
I'm not a policymaker, I'm just a policy writer, but.
All right.
And if I may
All right.
just add one quick thing, and then I'll say no more.
Right, because Councilor Edwards has been dying to talk. Go ahead.
No, I'm not dying
And
to
that is,
talk.
I understand and share the comments about a special use permit running with the land that Barbara Martin mentioned. But I do think that the notice provisions are exceptionally good, worthwhile, and extraordinarily valuable, because frankly, I think a lot of, and I'm not sure everybody understands this, but each of these will become an issue as to whether they are in fact consistent and concordant with the quality of life in Tiverton. So I think using the special use permit is valuable that way. I don't know whether you can solve the running with the land problem.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think we tried to solve it, whether it's, would pass a court muster, is we kind of made it a conditional special use permit because you do have to reapply every year. In other words, you have to go through the inspection process. So to the extent that you didn't meet that inspection process or you didn't get it, then my opinion, based on how it was written, that special use permit would be null and void. But I'm free, I am.
Well, that's why you're the lawyer.
Well, yeah, well, you're a lawyer too, but I know that it's a cloudy area because, again, the tools that were given by the legislature as we sit now are basically zoning, and I'm not even going to concede licenses because they haven't given us license. So we're trying to fit in what you basically have, everyone has conceded. We are trying to figure out how we allow people who own property, who technically want to run a business in a residential zone, residential zones. And that's how we're trying to figure it out. There's no good way right now to do it. And by the way, Mike and I've read every one of your comments, every one of your emails. I know I put them in a folder when we get them. I will tell you that this is not unique to Rhode Island. This is unique across the country. Everyone is trying to grapple with this issue. And so we're trying our best. And in Newport, the recently elected mayor in Newport was on the news this morning saying, we've got a problem with short-term rentals in Newport. And we think it's driving up the cost of housing for everybody. And, so this is where we're grappling with. There's no good answer right now. We're trying to do the best we can with the tools we have. And again, I will take my direction from my clients who are the council, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Edwards, would you like to speak now?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay, it's.
All right, so it will come as no surprise to anybody, this. I still have a problem with the special use permit. I don't know how we're gonna get around that, or if we can get around that. My problem with the special use permit is today's good operator could be tomorrow's bad operator. You sell your house, you're gone. I buy it. I'm a bozo. I'm just in it to make a ton of money. Well, I've got my special use permit, you can't take it away. I've got it.
Well, that's why we make it conditional.
No, but it's forever.
No, well, it's not forever, because we make it conditional.
You can make conditions,
No,
but when I violate, all I gotta do is satisfy that one condition, and then 2 days later, I'm back in business. That's part of the problem.
No.
The other one is
do that with the
parking. I don't
license,
think we can use Article 10 guidelines for parking for these things. A house, 1.5 spots off-street. They can have 3, 4, 5 cars. We need to recognize that and make sure that they have to have enough parking to satisfy that. Inspections. I think we as a town have a duty to recognize that these renters in a strange house need to be safe. And I don't think we should be relying on the owner to make that happen. I think they should be inspected like a motel would be. That includes egress, ingress, fire alarms, CO detectors, not CO2 detectors like it says in here, all those kinds of things. And that should be on a yearly basis, because things change over the course of the year. So when they reapply to stay in business, as this gentleman has said many times, they gotta jump through that hoop again and prove that, yes, everything's satisfied. Living in the house, how are we gonna prove that a resident actually really lives there?
By going there and seeing. Like if you go to this woman's
Okay,
house.
I go there and the person that I see says they stepped out. They went on vacation for 2 weeks. They did this, they did that. There's no real way of nailing down that I actually am living in my house.
You can do it through an attestation, I would think.
I could do it with registered mail.
Well, no, but you can do it through an attestation that at the time of license, you would attest that you are living there as required. And if it is learned that you are actually not doing that, the license or the permit can be revoked.
Okay.
I
They
mean,
are, so a person could just take the risk and say,
They
well, if I
could.
get caught, the worst that happens to me is I lose the rest of my year for the short-term rental.
well, if there's a problem at the home and the police go there,
Well,
and the
okay.
owner,
So let's get to that. I don't think that distance from the property should be a criteria. I think response time should be the criteria. As Chief Jones told us earlier in the year, they, of 4th of July, went to a property, met 3 different owners of the residents over the course of 3 days. So somebody complains about the next door, whatever, and 12 hours later, they're gone, and you got new faces. So I would rather see a response time of, say, 30 minutes, an hour, something like that. Not you have to live 3 miles away, or 10 miles away, or 25 miles away. We already talked about occupancy. One of the things in here, it says that it can't be used for a use that is contradictory to the other, that other properties in that neighborhood would be used for. So I can have parties in my backyard till 2 o'clock in the morning, unless somebody complains. And we want to make, I think what we want to nail down here, and it could be a generic form that anybody that does an STR would have to use, that says, by the way, we're not going to allow weddings, you're not going to have big parties, whatever it is. Right now, any property owner in town can have 2 events. But they don't
they
go,
have to come for a special use.
but they don't go to the property. They go to the applicant. So technically, a short-term rental applicant could appear and get an event permit for the
Right.
property.
Yeah. At the same time, we did discuss a little bit ago about limiting or not allowing such events
Yes.
in the
Well, yeah, okay,
regulations,
so
so.
we need to do those things. And what's my last thing? Okay, pattern of proper use. Part of this then, I don't think the police department now has a system where they really nail down why they visit a property. We might need to develop a
I don't, that would be up to the police chief, how they record.
We may need to have them develop a thing where they get into the weeds a little bit more and nail down exactly why they're there.
The police chief is right here.
We can.
We can.
With the ordinance, if the ordinance is created, it'll have an ordinance number. We can put that into the call, so it just gets tagged by either the dispatcher or the police officer. So
Okay.
yes, we can.
But you could,
But you could also define what within that ordinance was
Right.
being violated.
so if it's section 134 in the ordinance, you could say ordinance number 10, section 134.
Correct.
Yeah.
And anything else that we found.
Yeah.
Whether it's trash, whether it's parking, whatever it is, we can tag all of those. And then if we wanted to search that one particular address, we can do it. We can search how many times you went to one particular address for any reason. So we can do it
Oh,
all.
okay. Well, that'd be good.
Thank you.
All right, so that's my take on it.
Anyone else? Any of the other councilors that haven't spoken, does anyone else have? It's all right, Dennis.
I think, I'm here. I understand the lady in the back about you just have someone there, it's not something that you're trying to exploit. I do agree about the tier system. I think it should maybe go on how much your income is coming from renting, as far as that.
That is an idea.
So, I mean, I don't think she should be charged $1,000 a
Right,
year
right. That's
to
what
rent
I was
out
saying.
for $150 every 2 weeks or whatever she does, as opposed to someone who's probably making like $40,000 a year.
How are we gonna get
So
that?
there's no reporting mechanism
I
for that
mean,
today?
we have to come to some,
There is no reporting mechanism for it. They collect money from the state, because I've been through with the state with this already, state won't tell me who the property is and how much money we're getting from that property.
well, maybe we should tie that into the permit
So
system.
let me,
No, I'm not
can I
taking
just-
public
Can I
just right
just
now.
note that
Yeah.
we did, in the original year and a half ago,
Yeah.
whatever, draft, propose something like that, and the STR operators didn't feel, thought it was reaching too far into their business.
But
But
we
I don't
could do
disagree.
it as like you have one room, you live there.
Right, I
you're-
mean, like she said, she's only,
Right.
she's, she's charging $150. I'm not sure how much you make. I was ballpark 10 grand a year, but as opposed to someone else who's probably making 40, 50. I mean, you can say, yeah, well, we're attracting this much or these people. Yeah, I get that, but a lot of those people are going to Newport. Let's be honest. I go to Newport every weekend.
He does.
I'm just going to be straight with you. I eat here every, but I go to Newport every weekend. So you can say they're here, but I don't know. I just think the tier system should be adjusted, definitely. I don't know how we can regulate it, but it just makes sense to me.
Thank you.
Yep.
So this is what I think the plan is going to be, and see if you all agree with me. I think Mike and Mike, the two Mikes, have some kind of an idea. Give them a couple of weeks, maybe, we'll give you 30 days. How's that? Yeah, it's a holiday.
Yeah, I have plenty of time.
Right, so why don't we say the first meeting in February, you come back with the draft, and then we can go from there. And every draft will be tweaked, and this is the way we'll do it. We have taken, as you can see, some of what you said in consideration.
Plus, we have all the correspondence.
Right, and then we'll have another draft. We'll do exactly what we just did among us and change it accordingly. It's February, as long as it's not Friday the 13th, I'll be good. And that's the way we'll do it. But I don't want anyone to think that we are going to do this tomorrow. This is going to take a few months. And it's a very complicated ordinance, and it involves a lot of different residents, so.
Did you say that you had the planning board recommendation?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a public record if anybody
Yeah,
wants
it's
it.
public record. Is there something you want to say?
I will say that Mike and I will talk, but there may be an effort to correct the special use permit problem by going to the legislature while they're in session in January to allowing us to regulate it by a special use permit. So that would get rid of some of the issues that we have. That would make it a yearly special use permit that doesn't run with the land. So that's something we should also consider.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
licensing.
So would it be in order for the given what's on the agenda, for the council to vote on approaching the legislature on such?
Not tonight, but.
No.
Yeah, okay. So we'll have to wait till the first meeting in January for that, and I won't be here, so.
Which is like January 9th.
January 9th.
But
Okay.
if we get a warm fuzzy feeling that the legislature is in fact going to take the bull by the horns, we could delay what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I will be honest with you, it took, having served in the legislature, I know that this short-term rental issue, it took three sessions to get the registration requirement that just got passed, and that was vetoed by the governor and overridden by the legislature. So even the very fact of having cities and towns or people having to register was very controversial because it is a lucrative business. It's a market that people, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, it is just, there's a strong census that they should be able to do what they want no matter what. So it's not guaranteed that this is going to pass the first time. So
Right.
Again, and while we were talking, I looked on the DBR, Department of Business Regulation Registry, which is the state statute, and there are, I think it was 31 registered in Tiverton as of today. They have until January 1st to register, so I think someone said there might be 60, so I don't know if we're lagged in it, but we know at least now there are 31 in Tiverton.
30, because one is listed twice as inactive, and then again is active.
Okay, so 30. So. We think there's more than that, but they're not all registered yet.
Just a general question. What is Riverside Drive zoned as, waterfront?
Waterfront.
Waterfront.
One
No.
side is waterfront, I think.
Waterfront commercial.
Yeah, waterfront commercial. But is it?
One side.
Yeah, it's only the side near the water, not your side, John.
Commercial to the top of the street.
Yeah.
Where are the short-term rentals? Are they waterside?
Yes.
There's some also on, not on waterfront.
They're on
The
both
other
sides.
side of the road is not considered waterfront.
Okay.
The ones I was addressing in the row of 9 as you go down are all waterfront.
Waterfront.
Yeah.
And that's where 3 or 4, depending on whether it's are.
So related to that, for those short-term rental operators who have property there, and I know I don't know if you're on the water side or whatever, but you seem to know the other owners there. So I would ask that you have some conversations so that at least they can help address the concerns, at least over the short term, that the long-term residents there have expressed.
All right. Well, thank you all. We'll see you in February. Have a nice Christmas, by the way.
Thank you. Or Hanukkah.
Hanukkah or a holiday.
And by the way, there is a Hanukkah lighting Sunday at 4:30, right here.
There is. All right. Want to take a second? Yeah, sure.
You never see a room entry so fast.
I was getting so dizzy. Perfect. We'll see you. I don't mind. I'm gonna go have a sip. I'm sorry it took a little longer, but I think it was productive.
Seats up front, gentlemen.
I said, you missed it, I gave you watch cut. No, I'm only kidding.
Your head off.
I know. All right, everyone. General business, it's me, Council President DeMedeiros, assigned to Town Council Liaisons for boards and commissions. Because 2 councils have left, there are openings. I also want you to know there can be 2 people on a committee as liaisons. There can even be 3 for some of the busier committees. I explained to Dennis the other day privately that liaisons are just a go-to person for these commissions and boards, especially the chairman. If they have any kind of question on how to run a meeting or what they should do to get permits. Some of us go to these meetings a lot. Some of mine I go to when they ask me to, if they think that they want my input on something. And there's others I very rarely go to, but they know that they can call me, and they sometimes do. So I have an opening on the Arts Commission. Anyone interested? Now, Councilor Edwards isn't here, so I'm just going to assign. No.
Do you want to see if anybody who has a current committee doesn't necessarily want to take
Yes.
that?
Is there someone on a current committee that would like to leave that committee or take something else?
I'd like to keep the ones I'm on.
And Jay, you're going to join me on library?
I will, unless you, and Dennis, how do you feel about library?
Do you want to do?
It's quiet.
Yeah. It's
That
very-
is true. Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, so I'm going to give up
Yeah.
library, because if you see, I have a lot of the heavy hitters. And if somebody wants to share in some of mine, so Councilor Jay Edwards, and yes, it's a very good group to work with, and you'll get to meet a lot of the community. Okay.
Hey, you want me to do library too?
Jay and Dennis. Okay. And we're going to take me off that. Jay and Dennis. Would anybody else like to?
I would ask that I be removed from the Housing Authority unless we can't fill that.
Okay.
You're removing?
I'm removing.
Okay.
Can't blame you.
And I also suggested to Dennis that a very good way to learn the community is to join Councilor Perry and Councilor Burke on recreation. I think you'll get to meet people, and they're kind of a fun committee because they do a lot of things. So, all right, Dennis, we'll put you on recreation.
So I'll have you making picnic tables by next week.
Yeah, you'll be making picnic tables with Joe soon.
How's the art commission?
The Art Commission is, they don't really need you for much, and right now, they're not that active, but
Oh, okay.
the
But
Art
it's good to have
Commission
them.
would be a good one to be
Yeah.
on if you.
Arts hasn't met since
Yeah, can I
2019.
switch from, what was the?
No, I'm gonna put you on 3. Okay, count how many I'm on.
All right.
But these are not really tough ones for
Okay.
you,
Right.
okay? Now, currently, right now, on the budget, it's me and Deb. Do you wanna stay on
I'll
that?
stay on that.
Okay. On canvassing, it's just me, if anyone wants to join me.
I would, but they meet during the workday.
Yes, they work during the weekday,
They
and that's,
meet during the workday, not work during the meet day.
Well,
wow.
so
I
they
did-
meet during the regular day.
Yeah, generally
Yes, that's why
speaking.
I'm on there, so, because I'm
Okay,
free.
so if you can't make it, you can always call me.
Okay, so we're gonna put you over there, Councilor Edwards, with me.
Not that
Count-
I'll have to go, they pretty much take care of themselves.
Yes.
Councilor Perry is on the cemetery. You want to stay there, Joe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think you were on the cemetery before you were on the town council. Conservation Commission is Jay. Economic is
Me.
Burke. Harbor and Coastal, I was thinking John Edwards might be interested in this one. But Donna was on it before. Does anyone want?
So was Bill. I think
And
Bill was
Bill,
on it.
yeah, so there was 2.
I would be happy to
All right.
jump in on that one.
So we'll put Mike on that, and as far as John's concerned, he can join any of these, it's not like we're telling him he can't. Historical Cemetery, I think Donna, I don't know, remember who was on
Yeah,
that?
Donna was on that.
All right, I've been working with them a lot.
Yeah, you have been working with them a lot, okay, Jay. You wanna do a historical preservation too? It's the same people,
Yeah, all right.
okay.
They meet at 9:00 in the morning here.
Housing Authority, I'll take that, I get rid of library.
Let's
No, you
look.
don't want me to take that? All right, we'll see if John's interested in that one.
So not you?
No. We'll leave that open for now, and we'll come back to it. Juvenile hearing is Councilor Perry. You want to stay there, Joe?
Yes.
That's not very, that's not a lot.
Sometimes they don't even meet.
Right. Landfill would be Councilor Edwards and Councilor Perry.
When was the last time they ever met?
The juvenile?
Either one of them, landfill or recycling, like 2019?
Well, landfill and recycling, I don't
It was a
understand
while
why
ago.
they're
for
not
the-
active.
They're not?
The juvenile board's been a while,
Yeah.
been a real while.
Oh, I don't do that one. but-
Well, landfill and recycle, they haven't met.
I think the recycling committee wants to meet, or the landfill committee, we really don't need it anymore, but.
That's right.
Does recycling have enough members?
I think
Yeah, they don't have
Should
enough
three,
members.
don't they?
Aren't they combined?
No.
They're separate.
One committee, but there's not enough members.
Have we
Same thing
advertised?
with the Arts Commission. It's
Have we
not-
advertised? Yeah, we've been
We've
advertising.
advertised.
Okay.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, we had some resign from the Arts Commission.
All right, so library, we put Jay and Dennis. Newport County Chamber of Commerce, Mike, you want to stay there?
Yeah, it connects to economic.
Open space is Councilor Edwards.
Again.
If anyone
Counselor
was-
Jay Edwards?
Jay Edwards.
Jay Edwards, the elder.
Planning board is, personnel board is me. Planning board is Janik and Edwards, and I know they want to stay there.
Yes.
They've been doing a really good job over there and learning a
I
lot.
like us.
Yes, and I will mention that the planning board does like both of you, and they appreciate you going to every meeting. Police pension, Councilor Perry.
Yeah, I might get off of that because they meet in the morning and I can't always meet in the morning.
Okay.
That's once a quarter, you wanna do that?
Yeah, but it's in the morning.
Yeah, it's during his
Just,
work
just put my name there for now.
I usually try to get into work between 6 and 7 or 8.
I'm semi-retired, but I'm working more than normal. Yeah. Recreation is Perry, Burke, and Dennis. School committee is me and Perry. Do you want to stay on that, Joe?
No, I'll get off of that.
I'm gonna go off that. The school committee, I go to the meetings where I look at the agenda and I feel that they need some town input, or the chairman will call me if they want me to be there. I don't go to every Tuesday meeting, but I'll stay there if anyone wants to join me. I think Councilor Edwards used to be, the other Councilor Edwards used to be on there, yeah.
Because I wouldn't mind doing it, it's just that it runs into.
Yeah, it runs into the problem with planning.
Right.
Tax assessor board of review is me,
Peter can
which I don't do often. Well, they don't meet often. Tree commission, Councilor Perry, you want to stay there?
Yeah, they don't meet often either.
And zoning board is Janik and Edwards. All right. What we'll do, Joan, is put this on the next agenda, so then we can go over it to see what John wants to join. And if John wants to join something where, so we have an opening right now for housing. Or did I put myself on that? No, we'll wait.
No, we
Arts,
said we wait.
housing,
No, arts, Dennis,
Yeah, arts is Dennis.
oh, the arts is down.
We just have openings for the committee.
yeah.
We probably need somebody else on school committee.
Yeah, I mean, the school committee, sometimes I go to a lot of their meetings, it just depends on what's going on. I haven't been lately. When it was on Zoom, I used to watch it all the time and be there, but. Tax assessor Roberts, discussion possible vote to award statistical evaluation contract to Northeast Revaluation Group. David, I have to tell you, I have a concern about this.
Please voice it.
Well, we didn't have, we had kind of a fiasco last time with that. And that concerns me.
Sure, absolutely, concerns me as well.
And I know they came in as the lowest bidder, is that correct?
Substantially well.
By a bunch.
But sometimes when you pay for the lowest bidder, you get the lowest bidder.
True.
And we did have problems with them, you have to admit that.
Yep.
And it caused quite the controversy. So how much lower? I saw it.
It's like.
It's like almost 100,000.
100,000.
It's a big number. In fact, just between the bid, between the two of them, it's 100,000 just
Yeah.
on face value. But in the vision bid, there's also annual update maintenance costs of roughly $6,000 to $8,000 each year. With the other bid, you don't have that.
Now, we had
it's even a
Vision
bigger
before.
spread. We have, and the interesting thing about revaluations, I've done 5 here, and every single one of them, there's been some issue. And in fact, I just sent Jay something about revaluations. They're never easy. There's always an issue.
Yeah, but there was like calculation problems.
Well, on this one, yeah, the substantial issue on this one was that price and error with the decks and the porches and such, which was a stupid, stupid error. No
Right,
doubt
which
about it.
caused people to get very upset when they got their first tax
Sure.
bill, and then the
Yep.
second tax bill came in and was higher.
Had something to do with
It
what
wa-
you considered a porch.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
It
so
was-
you've got a plan to address this if we go with the low bidder?
Yeah, so that calculation error has been resolved. It's never going to pop up again. Some of the issues that I've had with the vendor that I'm recommending is mainly personnel. And the 2 people that I had the biggest issue with are no longer with the company. I did have a sit-down with them about 2-3 weeks ago. Met with the co-founder. They found this company, Patriot, because Northeast was bought out by Patriot. So although you're looking at a bid by Northeast Revaluation, it's really Patriot. So Patriot.
Was it Patriot last time too?
No, at that point in time, Northeast was still standing on their own. You have to understand, though, I mean, over the past 20, 25 years, there's been 3, 4, 5 revaluation companies. There was 2 big players and a couple of small ones. The smaller ones are being bought out by the larger ones. So for all intents and purposes, there are no longer any small players doing revaluations. There's one in Massachusetts called Real Estate Research Consultants, but they mainly just deal with tangible property and not really real estate revaluations. So the gentleman that co-founded Patriot, I did meet with him and the other key players in the state of Rhode Island, and he assured me we would not have these errors. Of course, they're going to say that, but I put him through the paces. The meeting I had with him was roughly 2 hours. I'm comfortable with the staff that they've hired. He is personally also going to oversee this project along with the Rhode Island project manager. So I really don't see an issue as far as that calculation error. Like I said, that was a software glitch that should never have happened. And they've actually removed it from the software, so it can't happen.
What do we have in the budget for this?
Right now, we have always held money in a
Yep.
restricted account,
Yep.
and I believe the balance right now, Jen just sent it up to me, it was like around 70, but I believe it's higher than that.
70?
70,000. All right, so this one's gonna cost us
I think it is
144.
higher than that.
Yeah, it is, I'm pretty sure it's higher than that.
It's higher than that.
Yeah, and Denise normally gives me the updated number, and she's been out, so I don't have the updated number. But out of this 144, the state of Rhode Island is going to reimburse us 60%. So we are on the hook for this, if we go with the 144 bid, of $57,600.
So out of the 245, they would give us 60% too if we chose
Yeah,
Vision.
they would. The issue with Vision, and when we talk about software issues, if you recall 2 revaluations ago, we had Vision, and they had substantial problems with their software on the user end. We had tons of difficulty with it. Their support was terrible. But because we spent so much time with them, we kind of went with them on the next reval because there was so much time and effort put into the software and the issues trying to be resolved. It would have been so much wasted time and effort if we went to a different company. So to be frank, that's why we kind of didn't go with Northeast the time prior. Since then, Vision has updated that software. However, they did a dog and pony show a year or so ago in the town of Cumberland. I went there, and my main issue with the software was you could go into an account and just look at the data and go into a next account. As you're going into that next account, it asks you if you want to save the changes. I didn't make any changes. So now it starts questioning, am I making the change? The staff, it's like, I didn't do anything, but it's asking me for a change. So there's a lot of, confusion on whether or not someone actually physically made a change in the software or a parcel in their value. We had no idea. So that glitch, these companies want to sell everything, said it's been resolved. We go to the dog and pony show, the very first parcel, that error popped up. So I still have a lot of concern about their software, but that aside, they are suggesting, well, actually they want, if we go with them, they want us to convert back to their software. That's $60,000, just the software alone. My argument with them has always been, look, when you release version 7 of the software, you more or less came out several months later and said that you should not have released it, it's too problematic. If you want me to replace it, 0 is the cost for us. So a year ago, they were willing to do it for 40, but now it's 60.
So is part of the reason then that the Northeast is lower is because we're already using their software?
We're utilizing their software, and you have to keep in mind, too, that when we do make these software changes, it affects everything else down the river. GIS gets adjusted.
Right.
Viewpoint, the building permit and software gets affected. Our billing system gets affected. So it's not necessarily just an easy change going from one company to another.
Right.
Then we have to make all these other adjustments. It can be done, and there will be some costs involved. But I still do have concerns with their software. The Northeast Patriot product, the only thing that I don't like about it at this point is just the sketch capability of sketching out a house, but it's minor. Other than that, I like their software a lot better than the Vision software.
The litigation costs, is that a normal?
Yeah, usually they give us a week worth of expert testimony within that bid, and then generally they'll charge us $500 to $900
Is that per litigation?
per day.
No, so.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Okay. Per case.
Yeah.
thank you. And then the additional cost for the Surface Pro and the annual fee?
Right, so with Vision, that's an added cost. With Northeast, their annual maintenance and hosting of the data on their servers is included in the bid.
Right, but here it says if we wanted the Mobile Pro software application.
If we wanted the software,
Then would you want that?
no.
No, okay, okay.
I gotta tell you, Dave, I'm just now getting comfortable with the new software, vis-a-vis land evidence records and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to have to learn it all over again.
I can appreciate that, and honestly, I mean, if I truly believe that Northeast cannot deliver a product that, would satisfy us, I would not recommend them. I mean, that's just not what I would do. Every single revaluation company has issues after a reval. There's always a complaint. This council had complaints with Vision several years in a row. So it's always an issue, but to Denise's point, that software glitch that they had should never have happened. It was embarrassing, but it's resolved.
Is it possible to test the system to make sure it's not doing anything?
Yeah, so actually, well, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Finish the thought.
No, that's
Yeah.
Is there a way for you to test it?
Yeah, so,
And tease it?
right, so the problem with these revaluations, when they're done for an effective date of December 31st. Then, we have our budget process and trying to get the bills out and that, so there's a time crunch. So every single time we do a revaluation, I'm getting the data pretty much at the end when the residents are getting it. So I don't have a lot of time to take a look at this stuff. So based on last year and taking a look at timeframes, what I put into this RFP was that they are going to give me preliminary values, I think it was October 1st or somewhere around there, So I'm going to get values 2 months that I can go out and start testing, not necessarily the software, but the values and make sure. Because with this last revalve, that checkbox was behind the scenes and I didn't even know it existed. So when we were taking a look at the values, I kept on telling them, something seems funky. I can't put my finger on it, but something's funky about this. But now with adding that extra time, I have 100% assurance that I'm going to be taking a look at values and running my own models through the system to make sure that it seems accurate.
That might give you ample time to.
That's going to give me plenty of
prevent
time.
the apocalypse that we had earlier.
Plenty of time. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I was just going to say, you took the heat for the last year, so.
We all,
if-
yeah.
I mean, if, you know,
We
if.
did, but he did.
But you did, and if you're comfortable with this, and you're comfortable that you know what the problems were, they're aware of what the problems were, and they have been rectified, and then there's a check and balance.
Check and balance
that-
and the
That
key-
you're more comfortable.
Yeah, the key thing is really meeting with the personnel staff. I mean, keep in mind, my background is I came from revaluations. So I know shortcuts, I know what they try to do. Because this is an update, I don't have so much concern with the field staff because there's not going to be a lot of field activity. The only field activity would be that when they go out and verify sales information. Outside of that, there's not going to be any data collection per se. But meeting with the people who are being in charge of this project, I'm very comfortable with them. Like I said, there was 2 people that had been running their projects, and if they were going to be assigned to this, I would not be here recommending them at all.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
What's the motion?
To
That
award
we
statistical.
hire Northeast Revaluation Group for $144,400.
It's gonna be more than that, isn't it, plus 7,500?
No.
No, it's 144.
Well, you would have to capture those no, you're not doing the software.
No.
No, we're not doing the software on the Surface Pro. And the annual maintenance, the hosting and the software maintenance is included in the 144.
But do you need to address the,
What
in
about
the
the
motion?
mobile stuff?
No, he's not doing that.
Oh, he's not doing that.
But the litigation?
Well, yeah,
to
I mean,
accept.
that's if we go into litigation. I don't think we've used a revaluation expert witness forever.
Yeah. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Against, Joe? I'm no.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
DPW Director Rogers, discussion possible vote to change the town ordinance regarding allowable locations for donation containers. I feel like we're doing this every meeting now. And to fund advertisement for applicable ordinance amendment continuation. Hi.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. So it's my understanding from the last meeting that you wanted some issues addressed in the ordinance.
Yeah.
And we did that. Mike Marcello, I mean, I helped a tiny bit, but Mike Marcello did the bulwark. And I'm happy with the ordinance as written.
Any questions from the council?
So this would be just advertising for public, sorry, this would be advertising for public hearing. I don't know if you want to go through it now, you can wait for the public hearing, but it basically allows bins in all areas, right, within the town, there is no fee. We can consider a fee, they have to register, basically.
So it can be a residential area?
They can, and that's one of the things that.
That's my problem.
Yeah, so I,
With limitations.
yes, so we,
No, I don't agree with that at all.
so we originally had, I originally had it in residential areas, a ban, not allowed, but the director, again, it can be added to, but.
Yeah, I don't think it should be in any residential area, in my opinion.
I'm happy to address that. If you eliminate residential districts, the way I interpret the zoning map, you would eliminate probably most of the churches. You would eliminate groups, like fraternal
Well,
organizations, civic.
couldn't we change it to be,
With the exception.
with the
of
exception
nonprofit
of
religious
nonprofit, religious, or,
Actually, I thought we did change that.
Yeah, yes, we did.
did we?
It
I
shall,
don't know.
if I may, it shall be unlawful for any property owner or operator to place an unattended donation box in any residential district unless at legally established or grandfathered businesses, places of religious worship,
Okay.
and civil or fraternal
I
organizations.
did change that, I'm sorry,
I
yes.
didn't catch that, okay.
So Rick's concern was that there are some churches right now that
That are in
grandfather,
residential.
that happen to be residential neighbors.
Yep.
There are certain civic groups that currently have, that are located in residential neighborhoods, so, but they're grandfathered or they're zone properly, so that's about, you could not put this in your front yard. So you couldn't put this at,
That'll be a
Council
whole
President,
nother
front-
problem.
Oh, my God. We can't have accessory structures in your front yard anyway.
Anyway, yeah,
So would they be able to put them in Country View?
they're not a country view, are they?
No, would they be able
What's
to?
Country View?
No,
It's residential, it's the over 50.
yeah,
No,
no,
it's
I don't think they
residential.
will.
Manufactured home, yeah, that's residential.
Do you want them to?
And it's not a fraternal or anything.
One of the things that we did that is not in here, and I got some pushback from the director, which is right to do so. There's no fee for registering these, there's no license, some towns have a fee. And the fines are, there really is no fine until the third offense, I think, correct?
And if I may,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, the DPW input is this. We've never, by my calculations, come close to reaching the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Corporation goal of 35% recycling. We've never come close to reaching the 50% diversion rate. It's going to be an impact financially to the town in the future because now we're going to be hauling trash. So we want to increase people diverting trash. And in the ordinance, you have to report what you collect. That goes towards our tonnage of diverted materials. And we want to make it it's the only type of vacant lot, for instance, would be a vacant lot right adjacent to an actively used lot. For instance, if a church was here, but their parking lot happened to be a separate lot, they would be allowed to do that because it's adjacent. So it would be controlled. The permittee and the operator have to sign off who's going to be responsible. DPW would be monitoring it for complaints, and we would be talking to them if we have a complaint.
Mike?
So, Rick, I understand your logic around the fee. However, I think the offenses should have higher consequences earlier on, because I don't want to see what we have seen sometimes in the past. And I've seen sometimes down at the landfill as you go in, I mean, your folks do a good job with trying to keep up to that, but they won't be there. And people just stacking things all around, both things that could go in, but it's full, or things that shouldn't even come close to be tried to go in. So I do have I want to address the violators, so to speak. And I know that if it's on my church property, and I'm not going to be there all the time, so I can't observe who's doing what, but I might have to back off and say, well, if I'm being fined, I just can't do this. And yes, that would cut into what you're describing, but we don't want it to be an eyesore either. And I know you don't.
Right. Thank you, Mike. So we do have the ability, if they're not towing the line, to make them get rid of the bin. So we don't want to scare people away from volunteering to have it. And we can increase the fines if need be, but the real hammer is we pull the box. And we certainly don't want at the landfill entrance, we don't want people going near the landfill.
Right.
To think they're getting rid of items. And we don't want it at the recycle center, because if it's inside, it's way too limited. And if it's outside, it's unmonitored.
Like it is now.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you, today, I went by in Providence, a row of 5 of them.
You left town today?
You left town and went look at.
I had help, somebody took me. They held my hand and made sure I didn't get lost. But anyway, so, you know, there was clothes, they were different colors. And what do I see? A couch, I think it was 3 mattresses, and then piles of trash.
In Providence?
Yeah. That's what we don't want to get to.
And I agree with you, Jay. And we, in our ordinance, it's no more than 2 unattended donation bins on any parcel. And even though they've been put up illicitly in the past, and then the zoning officer tells them to take them out, in those places that were at an active business, they seem to be, before they were rejected, they seem to have been monitored correctly. And people, it's like the pay-as-you-throw bags. There's no money in it. You lose money. You hope with the pay-as-you-throw that maybe somebody will buy something else when they're there. Is almost, in my opinion, there's almost no chance that somebody is going to go to a donation bin and say, gee, while I'm here, I think I'll make use of this. What's that? Make use of the
Go buy a
business?
screwdriver or something.
Yes, right. You may, hopefully, if you're going to buy a screwdriver, also take your donatable items. But we, in my opinion, that's why I've been pushing for this, we want to make it easy to recycle material.
So you're saying, let's say Big Sisters, they have a bin at Humphreys. They come and empty it, they have to weigh it and then tell us what the weight is?
Yes.
And how are we gonna make them do that?
It's in
They
the
do it
ordinance
anyway,
now.
yeah.
Oh, they already do?
And it's in the, it will be in the ordinance. And again, I can't take credit for all these good thoughts. That's Mike.
Can you tell us?
Or you can't take responsibility.
Yeah, that's what I said, no responsibility.
I wish you were around when we drafted the SDR ordinance.
Rick, do you have a number of how many of these are in town?
Oh, the ones that I know that are illicit have been taken away.
Okay.
So there's only,
There's something like 6 at the landfill.
Yeah.
I just think I think they are an eyesore. I understand that
yeah, maybe.
some of these charities do use those to pick up items, but I just wonder what the percentage of the items that they actually take from there are appropriate, usable, and not just their trash. And especially now that the landfill is closed, and people might have driven to the landfill on a Saturday and dumped off trash, now will they just dump it there?
We hope not.
You hope by having it at a monitored location, Deb, that the businesses will keep an eye on that. And if it becomes a problem, and the businesses and the permittee and the operator have to pay for the trash, they will do, sadly, as Salvation Army did at the landfill. Salvation Army pulled out about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, because it was too much trash and not enough usable items.
All right, any other questions? I'd like to entertain an order.
Motion
A
to-
motion
Advertisements.
to advertise, yeah.
So moved.
For public hearing.
For public hearing.
Do I have a second? Yes?
This is to advertise.
Yeah, all those in favor? All right. Director Rogers, discussion possible vote to approve MTG Disposal LLC December 2022 trucking charge to transport curbside trash collection to Rhode Island RIRRC, plus an increase in their fuel estimated usage from $15.50 to $21.70.
Yes, this is a revised price from the
Yep.
cost. Is I take the blame. I should have been pestering them earlier. It'd take a long time to get back. MEGA, along with Patriot, along with ABC, and I don't know if it's Killingly, have all been bought out by Waste Connections. Now, when you talk to them, you used to be able to get an answer in a couple of days. Now they review it, they then send it to corporate. Corporate takes a while to get it, then they send it back to you, and there's more miscommunication. So after the meeting, they got back to me and said, and it makes sense, that's why I'm proposing it. There's obviously more fuel to go to Johnston. And based on more or less what they say they're getting maybe 3 miles a gallon.
Yeah,
So these are
Yeah.
the diesel truck cars.
diesel talk.
And they, basically, it was also a misconception. One of their parties thought the landfill was closing 12/17 because that was an old date. So they messed up on that. So we think it's acceptable that the new cost is $73,663.86. And the fuel adjustment based on 2170, and that's an unknown number. All we can do is estimate it because it's the differential between X, which is the current price, and 288, which is the base price.
Okay. Any questions? Like to entertain?
So,
Oh,
I'm sorry, did they misread the RFP? Or,
no, they
This
just,
was negotiations, discussions, and letters, emails. So no, somebody somewhere didn't look at the current data. I mean, the 12/17 date was long ago.
and I asked that because I'm working on a contract for work, and the contractor missed the insurance requirements. But we insisted that they meet them, even though it was going to be a cost to them. So I'm not saying we shouldn't do this, but it's really up to them to do their homework.
Yes. However, since they're
Yep.
one of the limited games in town.
It's still there.
Yep.
But
all right, like to entertain a motion? So the motion would be,
To approve the MTG Disposal LLC December 2022 trucking charge to transport curbside trash collection to Rhode Island Resource Recovery, plus an increase in their fuel adjustment estimated usage from 1,550 gallons to 2,170 gallons.
do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? And basically, the next one is just to extend it from January 2023 to June of 2023, right? Same costs?
and again, Denise, that's the same rationale as before. And the communications is a little slow, but again, that's up to me. I should have been pestering them earlier. But the rationale from DPW's point of view to accept it is you took the base rate from the old letter, made the 620 gallons a month change. We did, they dropped their 4 rejected loads, and it stays at the 2. When you add those, it equals 75,682, which is within around 165%. So that's acceptable to DPW, and that carries the town through 6/30/23, through the end of the fiscal year.
Any questions?
Yeah, so the current rate with this then will be 76,932.24 per month.
The 7/6/9/32/24 is from January 1st through June 30th per month.
What if fuel goes down?
Oh, no, that doesn't include the fuel factor adjustment. The fuel factor adjustment in all these calcs is separate. Their contract is based on $2.88 a gallon. So we have been paying for months now the differential between $2.88 and whatever it is. And it ranges anywhere from $3 to $5,500 or whatever a month.
Any further questions? Like to entertain a motion?
Move approval of the MTG Disposal LLC contract extension for the period January 1, 2023 through June 30, 2023, which includes an increase in their fuel adjustment estimated usage from 1550 gallons to 2170 gallons.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made second. All those in favor?
Thank you for all three so far.
And your next one is an update on the landfill capping project, particularly Phase 4.
Yes, and happy to answer any questions, give whatever information I have, and if anybody else wants to provide input. We're going into Phase 4. As of January 1st, they can start Phase 4. If they're not interfering with us, they've been doing some stuff on Phase 4. We have to the end of the month to clean our area, so we've been working on that. So phases 1, 2, and 3 are to a great extent completed, not counting all the swales and, linings, et cetera, in the retention ponds and riprap. But that's completed to an extent also.
So what I'm passing out to you is where we are with respect to landfill closure costs, both the contract with J.H. Lynch. Phases 1 through 3 was 7.7 million. Phase 4 is 3.6 million. Altogether it was 11.4 million. We've dispersed to date 6.8 million. There's a balance of 4.6. We also have Power Engineering, who's overseeing this project.
282.
To date, that project was $496,000. We've expended $213. We owe $282. Yeah, those two numbers together, altogether we owe, as of today, $4.8 million. Landfill closure account has $3.4 million in it, so we're short 1.4. We're not going to fund this until January when we do the American Recovery monies.
And the casino
And the
money.
casino monies, but it will be my recommendation at that time that we fund the entire balance for this landfill closure from the American Recovery monies. It wouldn't make sense not to continue with J.H. Lynch for Phase 4 at this stage. They will go on, they're actually going to proceed based on our word that we're going to move forward with this, but it's, while they're there, the economies of scale of having them there and moving forward, they have no expectation of getting paid until the council authorizes the money, out of the American Recovery money. So I'm just trying to give you a financial update as to where we are, how much money we're short, and where we expected the money to come from. We've known all along, and I know it's.
This is no surprise.
New on the council, but this was what we were expecting to do all along. So J.H. Lynch has done from my standpoint, if you have an opportunity, go take a look up there, take a walk up there, ride up there. You've done a phenomenal job.
Looks good.
And right now, there is a contingency fund to fund some of the things like the boulders. There's one major change order that we're probably gonna concede to, and that's to fence the entire area, because we've had some issues up there. It's a cost that we didn't anticipate, but we believe that the contingency will pay for the majority of it. So I think that we're on solid ground as to where we are, and I would highly recommend that we, at some point, move forward with authorizing this contract with the funding behind it. They're not looking for a vote tonight.
Okay, the pay-as-you-throw brings us in how much a month?
Well, that's.
Estimate.
That varies, but I'm gonna say we're probably gonna bring in about 350,000 this year. It's less than what we.
Well, I'm just wondering, in December, what do you estimate? Because this is as of November, that's what's in the
Right.
code.
So, don't forget, we started with almost 11
I
million.
know.
So it goes quick.
I'm just curious.
We're gonna be one.
Yeah, so
About
it's,
35, a little less than
Yeah.
$35,000, like $30,000.
And the pay-as-you-throw is still gonna be part of this.
and at some point, we are gonna have to look at changing that ordinance.
Yep.
To reflect, because that money can only be used for landfill
Right.
closure. There will be some continuing cost of landfill closure from here on out to do the monitoring wells. But that ordinance should reflect that those excess monies can also be diverted to the excess cost of trucking that and the tipping fees that are gonna be dealt with in Johnson. That alone is not gonna pay for it. It's
Oh,
just not
no,
going to.
it's gonna be
Oh, it'll
taxes.
help,
It'll help offset.
So we're gonna be shy
Right now, we're shy of
just shy of
1.5.
1.5 million, saying.
Right here.
What do you think the fence is gonna cost? A couple of hundred?
Oh, 250.
Yeah, about two and a quarter, 250, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So 1.7, 1.8 is what we're really gonna need.
No, that's
No.
already built in the contingency. These contract numbers have the contingency.
The fencing.
No, it doesn't have the fencing in because we haven't authorized the change order yet. That's a change that,
But that cost will come out of the
so
contingency.
there,
Oh,
in the
well.
contract, there's actually a contingency number already built into the contract. And we were adamant to do that to begin with,
I got it.
because we just had no idea what we were gonna be confronted with.
No, we didn't even know about that,
So,
so.
you know, they've been very good stewards of doing what they're performing up there. The oversight has been excellent. They've actually, if you did take a ride up there and saw the amount of boulders that are up there,
Yeah, what are we doing with the boulders?
well, we'll get to that in a bit. They're-
Riverside Drive.
Playing bowling ball.
No, they're big, Mike.
They're big, but Power Engineering went through and measured each and every one of them, because they only get paid for certain sizes. And everything else they own.
Oh, really?
You know, so they're gonna be in phase 4, as they're trucking the fill out of the quarry, they'll be bringing the boulders back to crush them.
Yeah.
So, but there are some bigger ones, I'm not sure what they're gonna do.
There's some big ones.
There is an update on that. Some of it, quite a bit of it, is being, Lynch is allowed to do this. All we tell them in the contract is, you get rid of it. So they have made arrangements with some, at least one local vendor who seemed interested in taking some of it, who has taken some of it. As long as they're legally doing it, we don't care. And again,
What?
No, that's another matter.
and as
You don't think I was thinking of that?
As Chris mentioned, they are going to be back trucking when they haul from Tiverton Materials, the gravel as needed. They'll be loading the rock and hauling it there for crushing, which is what Chris
We
said.
expect that somewhere to be around $40,000 to $60,000 of that $500,000.
These are going.
All right.
So just, we're giving you an
So you
update.
don't
let
need
you know,
anything from us
we don't
on
need
this
any vote tonight. They're gonna proceed knowing where we are, and they know exactly where we are, so.
Joan, when is that meeting for the casino? I didn't write it down.
January
17th.
17th.
All right, thank you, because I didn't write it down and I don't know why.
But again, people continue to ask, why are we still paying for trash bags when the landfill's closed? And but it's because of all of these costs to close it. I mean, it's not open to bring trash to, but we're gonna need to be covering it for many, many years to come.
No,
So,
Not covering, it'll be covered. There'll be engineering and
To monitor it,
environmental
to mon-
reviews that need to be done. So there's monitoring wells that have to be testing, sampling, and they'll provide reports, engineers to monitor that, and we may be required to put in more monitoring wells as this migrates out. The issue of putting the cap over is to make sure water doesn't get in it, so that it helps mitigate what's coming out of the bottom of it.
But
the bottom line, there's a lot of money still.
But I'm still a
to be
big
spent.
advocate for continuing it so it can help with.
Oh, I agree with you.
Decreasing the cost.
I agree
just
with
trying
you.
to
It's
answer the
just,
question.
I'm
Yeah,
trying
you're
to
just
answer the
trying to
questions because
For the maintenance of the
people
landfill.
continue to ask why.
Okay, and thank you, Deb, because there is still an ongoing cost for closing it as of now. There will be, as Denise and other people have said, a cost increase, a great cost increase going to Johnston. And it's been shown, basically conclusively, that recycling goes up when you have pay-as-you-throw. If it's the same cost to have one bag, or as it is to have one bag and one recycle, a lot of people will throw everything in the trash. That will drive up tipping, and it'll drive up cap overage. And that's a very pricey thing.
It'll hurt our recycling rate.
Yes.
Bad.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you all.
thank you,
Rick.
Rick. Administrator Cotta, discussion possible vote to RFP, to advertise for RFP for mooring software to manage moorings, applications and renewals. And we've talked about this
So the Harbor Commission has done they brought a vendor in, did a demo, they've looked at it, they like it, they wanted to know, did they have to go out to RFP? And they didn't think that there was an issue because there's really no charge. The vendor,
There is.
the vendor charges a fee to the applicant. So my issue with it is, while it's still, there's a cost involved, and I don't know if there are other vendors that can provide very similar service, and are they at all competitive? So I think that we should at least go out, and I talked to Mike about this, Mike Marcello, that we should, it didn't seem like it's just a sole source, that it should go out and put it out for RFP to see if there's any other competitive bidders that would come in, and then we would take a look at it once we saw the responses.
Perfect. So I need a vote to go up to RFP.
Just real,
Well, we can have a
oh,
discussion.
motion to,
Well, can I ask a question on this question?
that's what I was going to do, but she wants the motion
So
first. You
we've
can't
had
hear.
numerous discussions with, like the beach, where they wanted to be able to collect
he got-
fees.
Ask his question.
What?
It's what
Mike wanted
happens, it's
to
what
ask a
happens all the
question.
time.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
So do you want a motion first?
No, just ask your question. He
So,
didn't hear me.
two things, and Chris, I had mentioned to you that, so it's really a question of Mike. Should they have had the discussion, presentation by this vendor without doing an RFP first?
I mean, it's just informational.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
so-
okay. Second.
They weren't bound by the,
Okay, and then assume that the rec commission will be coming to us with something similar related to parking at the beaches, so that's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this vendor?
All right,
Yeah, they'll want to put out a bid too for parking at the beaches.
I just wasn't sure, and I talked to the administrator about this. I don't live in a seaside community. I'm sure this is not, they tried to say this was a sole source. I don't believe this is a sole source. I think there are other entities out there that may provide this service. This may be very well be the low bid, but I think the law requires us to go out to bid, so that's why we're doing it. And I think that's the better way to do it. So we can't say, like what you kind of implying, that, well, they had a presentation by one vendor and they gave it to that one vendor. I don't think that's appropriate. I think we should let other people bid on it.
And
I don't think it was, nothing nefarious about it. It's
No,
just-
I don't think so either, but to the point that you're making about recreation, and for any other entity in town, to the extent that before they could even go out for an RFP, sometimes you bring a vendor in so you can get the ideas on how to even put an RFP together. So they do a demonstration, you tell them up front as they're coming in, and I'm very adamant with the boards and commissions that would do this, is you can't obligate the town to do anything. You can explore, you can get information, but you're not obligating the town until we go through whatever the appropriate process is. And most of them all have been fine with that. And I think that that's kind of what the Harbor Commission is doing. I think they tried to see what's out there, what they could, adopt, and what they, if there's, maybe they wouldn't like it at all, but they were just trying to see if there's something that was out there that would be amenable. And then the question was, okay, how do we go about procuring it? Now, the issue was, you can't just procure this. So, and they meant well, but they get it now. They truly had no issue with going out to RFP. They actually asked the question, is this something we actually have to go out for RFP for? So we checked and we talked it over and we believe it, this is the way it would work. But I would never stop somebody from inquiring about information about something that might be beneficial for the town. How we go about funding it and all that, it's a whole different issue, but.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Jay?
Well, my only question is, so the Harbor Commission wants maybe this, recreation for the beach fees want theirs. Can we get one that suits all?
We'd have to draft an RFP to accommodate all that. And I'd have to sit with Stu to find out exactly what he's looking for. I think he's looking for like a ticketing system for parking, that you put a tag on your dashboard and.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, more of
Because I
a,
thought
more
they
of
wanted to be able to use credit card stuff and all.
Oh, that might, well, he's already got that, I think. I think
Yeah, that's already done, right?
I think he's done that. I'm not sure. I have to.
He talked to me about it, I think.
Yeah, well,
All I'm
he's-
thinking is it might make sense to put it all under one umbrella with one price rather than piecemealing it all over, if possible, I don't know.
Okay, we can take a look at that. And that's, I can hold off on putting the RFP out, but it's,
Well, I don't want.
I don't know if there's gonna be a vendor that can do both. That's the issue.
Yeah,
don't
and
want
two
to
separate-
delay because we never need it soon.
It's just worth the question.
No, I get that, but I'll talk to Stu first before I put anything out to make sure that it's not something that could be incorporated into different systems.
So Stu has information on one potential source. In looking at this information and looking at that information, they are two very distinctly different processes.
Okay.
Okay.
I think, but, I mean, talk to Stu.
Okay.
So they may not interface,
No.
So do they have anything that they're using now for moorings?
Yeah, Tyler's tabulating it downstairs on
It's like
on cards.
Okay. I do.
And he mails everything out.
I just remember Tyler coming to us about something. Maybe it was this kind of program.
It's all done by hand right now.
Okay. Maybe,
But this is what they would like. So
maybe
that-
he did an Excel sheet and.
Yeah,
we
he
were
does
excited
that, but he
about
does the
that.
mailings, he has check sheets that make sure he's gotten the checks back, and the people who don't respond, he has to double check with, so this would be much more seamless.
All right. Does somebody want to give a motion?
Move approval of advertising an RFP, directing the administrator to advertise an RFP for mooring software to manage moorings, applications, renewals, after discussing with Recreation Commission Chair to see if there's any overlap.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Solicitor Marcello, discussion possible vote to approve a resolution to authorize the town council president or town administrator to sign a deed transferring Monast Island to the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. You wanted to change this a little bit?
I have an amendment at the appropriate time, but let me just indicate, as you know about for the last year, we've been working with DEM. The town owns this island in the middle of the Secant River, right?
No,
I'm sorry, the Taunton River, sorry, wrong, Secant River, sorry, wrong city. That we took a tax title. I think Joe at one point said the guy used to sell hot dogs off the.
Years ago.
Yeah, years ago. So anyway, we took it at tax title. We never foreclosed on the right of redemption because of the sensitive nature of it. DEM approached the town, I guess maybe the land trust, indicating they'd like to take it over. We did the research. Originally, we were going to foreclose upon the property, but after doing some more research, because the tax title was more than 40 years old, they were able to get a title insurance policy insuring the title. So we are now completed that process, and we are now asking you, the town, to transfer the property with a conservation easement to DEM. And the resolution spells out that kind of history. The only amendment is on the now therefore, the original resolution says to be signed by, the deed to be signed by the town administrator and the town council president, and it really should say and/or, because the deed actually has only one signature line on it. So that's all I'm asking you to amend. I have a substitute resolution if you just want to pass that, but it's up to you. But that's what's going to happen to this, we'll get rid of this island. And we can transfer it without the approval of the town financial meeting, because we're doing it for conservation purposes, which is an exception on the charter.
Didn't they used to call this Bad Island, Joe? Was there a bunch of,
Bad Island?
yeah, no. When I was a kid, we used to, I think so.
So for Dennis's edification, this is down near Sea Palette?
No, this is.
Down near the
For my
state line,
application.
down near the state
No.
line, Bay Street, off of Bay
Oh,
Street.
it's off Bay Street?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's out towards
way
Warren,
off.
like if you look out towards Warren.
Oh, I'm
there's
way off
Okay.
too.
Right in the middle
I
of
just looked it up on the map and it says Warren. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Well, it's, yeah,
Wow.
So it's in the middle of the Taunton River.
20 years it'll be underwater anyway.
Oh, I'm thinking it's totally.
So Tiverton's border, Fall River's border, goes across the river to Warren and Swansea. So it's very close to the confluence of all
Oh, I was
those
thinking
waters.
of somewhere else, you know?
Okay, so was I.
Yeah. I
So for
wasn't
my
going way down.
edification,
I was
North Tiverton.
I was a little closer than you, but I
So
was,
it's between the Mount Hope Bridge and the Barker Bridge.
yeah,
More towards the Warren side.
yeah.
Wow.
About a mile.
It's
Yeah,
really
but
in
it's
Mount
still
Hope
in
Bay.
Tiverton. Yeah, it is
It's
Mount
Mount
Hope.
Hope Bay.
And you can only see it at low tide.
Yeah.
Can't see it at high tide.
Okay.
See Joe showing his age.
So
right
I
now.
make a motion, we approve the resolution of the town of Tiverton and authorize transfer of Monast land with the change to the therefore clause to reflect it be town council president and/or the town administrator for signing
They're
purposes.
already making it me, so. Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in, any further discussion? Sorry. All those in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Great fishing spot, by the way.
So I just need you to, we need to put that in the record.
You need this.
Yeah, I need the original
This is the one you
resolution.
just gave me.
And at some point, you're gonna sign the deed tonight,
Okay.
if you could.
Okay. All right, the next one is mine. Council President DeMedeiros scheduling of the initial budget workshop with the school committee and budget committee per section 301B1 of the home rule charter. This is usually a very simple, quick meeting. Per charter, we have to meet with all those organizations before we start the budget process. So, we have to do this by January 15th, per charter.
Didn't we find last night the school committee had a meeting on January 3rd?
School committee has.
School committee,
a
yeah.
budget- has a, yeah, they have a meeting, and the school building committee has a meeting right before that.
That's where we usually have it.
But what they were asking was that, since this meeting that we have annually is usually pro forma and very short, can we tack on to that a discussion around the phase, what is it, the five?
Oh, the phase 2.
Phase 2 letter. A preliminary discussion around it.
But not on January 3rd. during the
No,
meeting. Oh, okay.
whenever we have the meeting for the budget.
Well, I was thinking I was thinking,
We can talk whatever we want.
I was
but-
thinking January 12th. It's a Thursday, though. Is that all right with everyone?
Yeah, I will probably not be here, but that's fine. You can
Oh, you're
do it.
not gonna be, you
Yeah,
wanna
but
do it?
don't worry
No?
about it. I'm not, I
Because
don't
if
get
you
hung
look-
up on things.
Look at that, January 15th. So, I mean, don't have many.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, go right
okay.
ahead. I'm not gonna get
Okay.
hung up on it.
All right, so was January 12th Thursday okay with everyone?
I may be back, I don't know.
Yes. Okay.
I think so.
So do you want to talk to Jerry about that other? Yeah.
I'll talk to Jerry. I'll tell him, well, we'll throw that out if that's not okay with them.
No, I mean about
Yes, I know.
combining.
But I'm
not
thinking,
combining,
should we
but-
have a second choice? But no, we don't have many choices.
have
Let
many
me talk to Jerry about that. And the budget committee, who do I
You'll have to contact me until I get.
Yeah, okay. All
They
right.
haven't met yet.
No. Okay,
Don't we have to have a meeting to appoint a couple of people?
No.
no,
No.
nope, nope,
Just the
We
right
have-
sides.
yep.
We have
No, we
all
don't
the
need
seats
to.
filled.
Yeah, we have all the seats filled.
Because of write-ins.
Yeah, because of the write-ins. All right, so I'd like to entertain a motion,
Oh, before that, can I just do one quick thing from our, it's informational,
yeah, go ahead.
from the consent agenda, I forgot. On the Bay Street, Stu just wants to know what, if anything, they can do with the playground on Hooper Street. Does it need demolishing, or can they look at updating it? So you don't have to answer that, but if you want to,
I don't think they can do anything with
well,
that.
that's what he wants to know.
Yeah.
That's what he
Can't
wants.
dig, they can utilize it, just can't dig.
Yeah, so if you want to have a conversation with them about what's allowable. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to, we're gonna table K and L until we come out of executive session, so I don't need a, yeah, I need a
Motion
motion
to
for
table,
that, so.
K and L.
Do I have a
Until-
second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. We will now go into executive session. I entertain a motion to go under 9A, Town Administrator 42465A1, Personnel Job Performance, Annual Evaluation for Police Chief Patrick Jones. Notice given, continued from 11/28/22. Town Administrator 42-465A1, Personnel Job Performance, Annual Evaluation for Deputy Police Chief James Costa. Notice given, continued from 11/28/2022. Rhode Island Solicitor, Town Solicitor, Rhode Island State Law 42-465A2 litigation, LB Corp. versus Town of Tiverton, NCE 2021-0401, discussion review and potential vote on proposed settlement of a tax appeal for property at Zero Fish Road, Plot 107, Lot 106, potential grant of easement to Clayton over town-owned property. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Yes.
Second?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
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 Yeah. Joe, I think.
Who's second?